like to call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming tonight. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Supervisor Moore?
Present.
Councilwoman McNamara?
Present.
Councilman Iacili?
Present.
Councilman Pell?
Present.
Councilman Skiboom?
Present.
All right, I move to accept the minutes from the Hampton Bays Water District Commissioners meeting dated May 9th, 2024 at 10 a.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to accept the minutes of the regular town board meeting of May 14th, 2024, 1 p.m.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And motion to approve the minutes of the special town board meeting of May 23rd, 2024 at 10 a.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please read the communications?
The following communications have been received in the office of the town clerk. We have received public notices from the town of East Hampton, Village of Sag Harbor, notice of adoption, New York State Liquor Authority 30-day advance notice to local municipalities, a class change application for 270 West Montauk Highway in Hampton Bays, and a new application for 32 Lighthouse Road in Hampton Bays. Annual statements of financial disclosure were submitted by the listed individuals, and emails, letters, and letters have been received regarding the following topics. The Best Steering Committee meeting from May 7th, change of zone application entitled Liberty Gardens, County Road 39, Southampton, Hampton Bays Fire District Superfund Site DEC public meeting for this evening. Mill Creek Marina, Yacht Hampton, notice of intent to sell number 5, West Hampton Pines, East Quogue, notice of intent to sell 202 Erie Way, East Quogue, Shinnecock Indian Nation's June Strawberry Thanksgiving. The following bid and request for proposals were received on May 22nd. Bid for construction equipment and marina maintenance services for the Parks Department. Bid for Mercedes-Benz Sprinter cargo van for code enforcement. And a bid for street sign blanks, reflectorized sheeting, and traffic marking tape for the Highway Department. And that concludes communications for this meeting's agenda.
Thank you. I have several walk-ons, 5 actually. I'll read 4 of them, and we can vote on whether to include them in the packet. Town Board Resolution ID number 46561 with the warrant number 10. Town Board Resolution 46575 to reappoint Bonnie Michelle Cannon to the Southampton Housing Authority. Town Board Resolution ID number 46576 to reappoint James Nespole to the Board of Ethics. And Town Board Resolution ID number 46577 to reappoint Michelle Lemuel Gray to the Board of Ethics.
I'll second that.
We didn't read,
We'll just read it separately upon request.
oh.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the last and 5th walk-on is Town Board Resolution ID number 46564, a resolution establishing standards of civility for Town Advisory Committee members.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
I'm a no.
I'm sorry.
I'm a no.
On number 2.
Yes. Just received it and I haven't had a chance to, none of the advisory committees have seen it, so.
Okay.
All right, so Madam Clerk, would you please read the public hearing notice for public hearing number 1?
Certainly. Public hearing number 1, Chapter 261, to consider enforcement action at 398 County Road 39, Tuckahoe, New York, Suffolk County, tax map number 900-15836.
Good evening, Supervisor Moore and members of the Town Board. Assistant Town Attorney Sean Cambridge. I'm here presenting 3 enforcement actions tonight. This is the first. This property is owned by the Zucchero Family Irrevocable Trust. I'm going to show you some pictures, and then I'll hand them up to be put into the record.
Should we do
Do you wanna
open
open all
up
three?
all three, or are you doing
They're all
them
distinct
separately?
sites. So we have a picture packet for
Let's-
each site,
Okay.
different issues.
They're adjacent or adjacent?
They're all,
Two of them are adjacent, one's across the street. So this site is being used as a landscaping yard. It is zoned residential. You can see this from Route 39. It's a big pile of essentially vegetative waste, which is what initially had drawn code enforcement officials to this site. I'm not going to show you every picture, but I'll hand them up to the town clerk so they can be part of the record for today. Essentially, once we noticed this public hearing, a representative of this trust did contact the town attorney's office. They started removing this pile and are asking for some additional time to come into compliance. I explained that the town board could authorize an enforcement action. Doesn't mean we have to go out today and do it, but it'll be authorized, so we can have a vendor on standby, ready to go if this is not done to the standards we expect.
Gives us that leverage to.
Right, so you can see these structures are in pretty bad shape. Some are open,
they're all in
unsecure,
a very prominent location on County Road
very
39.
visible on County Road 39. Lots of traffic pulling it in and out, and this is not a site that has been permitted this way at this point. So it doesn't mean they can't move for some permits to legalize some of these uses and structures, but it's not how we'd like to see this site configured. You can see fences in disrepair, structures in disrepair. So this enforcement action is about moving this pile of vegetative waste, securing the structures on site that are deemed unsafe, and just removing generally hazardous materials, including vegetative waste, fertilizers, fuel, that type of thing. Are there any questions?
All to comply with the code.
Correct. And I'll hand these up to the clerk.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
I'm going to pass these down. Once you've all looked, if you could pass them back, and I'll clock them in. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd also add to the record, while you're looking at these photographs, we have numerous default judgments against this property, meaning they were summoned to come into court, failed to appear, and we were able to get money judgments against this property owner.
And what did the town do in an attempt to gain compliance prior to today's hearing?
So typically, we'll issue a notice of violation, which is a voluntary warning letter, essentially. That gives you usually anything from a week to 30 days to voluntarily comply and get in touch with a code enforcement or building official. Once that step is essentially ignored, we elevate to a summons. That means you have to come into court and address a judge, see myself as the town's prosecutor. We make you an offer for voluntary compliance. We make you a plea bargain offer. Essentially get permits for X, Y, and Z, clean up, whatever materials on site that's unsafe or violates our code. And then we ask you to come back and enter a reduced and amended plea to a violation level offense rather than a misdemeanor, and try to resolve things amicably. Once that fails, I'm here in front of you. So this board has enforcement authority powers.
I have a question for you. Is there people
Sure.
living in this hut and house?
No, there's a business office being operated out of that,
But no one's living in the house?
not that I'm aware of.
Is there a site plan for the enclosures?
No.
There's
No, this
The
is zoned
stalls
as vacant residential one-family home.
okay.
But this house is vacant.
It should be, yes.
'Cause I see kids' toys
Yeah,
and there's open stuff there.
there's a refrigerator.
Yeah. So if someone is living there, if there's kids there, the house should be secure.
Potentially, that's why we're in front of this board. We want to secure any hazardous conditions, attractive nuisance conditions, things that would draw perhaps children into unsafe conditions. We like to clean up materials that present environmental hazards and life safety hazards, hazards to wildlife, that sort of thing. So I very sparingly bring these in front of the board. This, like I said, is a last step. We hope still this property owner may come into compliance voluntarily. If not, the process, if the board is to authorize this type of an action, we go and hire a vendor who's bid on these types of projects. They do a forced cleanup, and then part of the resolution related to this is authorizing a tax levy, charging the homeowner for this cost, because it's not fair to put this cost on taxpayers. This would go on the owners of this property.
What's the relationship with this company, with that you said asked for an extension of time? Is that the owner?
So there's a family trust that owns this. An individual identified himself as authorized to represent them. Those are some tenants that are unrelated. We would ask for a change in tenancy to be filed for any of those types of businesses, as well as a site plan, usually. You know, they're taking the position it's a pre-existing non-conforming site, and I said, well, you don't have any documents to prove that. You need to apply for a C of O that says that. So this is a site in violation as far as the town is concerned.
Apologies if you're repeating yourself. Has there been any clearing identified? There's like tractors and what looks to be open
Not
to
at
land
this time.
piles.
We're more concerned about the hazards. Chapter 261 of the town code allows me to bring an action before this board to abate hazards and clean up hazardous conditions. So that's the scope of this hearing. There may be clearing issues. It doesn't rule it out by any means, but that's not what we're here to address today. Code enforcement and the building department certainly can evaluate for that though as well.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any cards for this hearing. Kevin, is anybody on Zoom? Does the board have any other questions?
Nope, I do not.
Then I move to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the second public hearing?
Yes, and if you could pass those pictures back before Sean passes me new ones, I just don't want them to get mixed up. Public hearing number 2, chapter 261, to consider enforcement action at 419 County Road 39, Tuckahoe, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map 900, 158, 134. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Again, I'm going to introduce this. This property is situated across the street from the one we just discussed. It is owned by 419 Country Road 39 Corp. I guess they recorded the spelling error on the deed. So those are the owners. It's a corporation. This property is classed as a restaurant in Highway Business District. It is not being used as a restaurant. You'll see in the photographs that I'm about to show you. Pool company is operating here with chemical storage outside, which is not what we'd like to see. Those are identified as hazardous materials. Storage in these types of rentable, this one happens to be from Cassone.com, trailers. These are not typically permitted on sites without a site plan. We have construction materials and equipment being stored at this site. Again, this is supposed to be a restaurant. Heavy equipment for possibly tree removal or cement. And then various construction materials being stored, rebar, cement, tile, those types of things. Oil canisters. I would note the building is mostly secured with plywood. There are spots where it appears animals have entered. We're looking to board those up. In addition, they're not really visible in the photographs, but one of these buildings appears to have been a barn at some point, and there are large pits that are unsecured that drop down about 15 feet. So they do present a hazard, attractive nuisance for a child. This is very close proximity to a school. So I'd like to see these fenced. That's what this hearing's about tonight. I'm going to pass these up as well.
Thank you. Gonna do the same?
And all the steps you mentioned in the prior hearing have been adhered to?
Yes.
The notice?
Notice of violation, summons, appearance in court, default judgment. To clarify, a default judgment is what happens when a corporation fails to appear in court. We have the exclusive ability with corporations to enter a default judgment. Anyone doing business in the state of New York has the burden to register with the New York Secretary of State. We serve them process there. And then once they fail to appear on usually the second court appearance, we move for default judgment in the amount of $1,000 per charge.
And has anyone contacted you about this property?
Yes, an individual of this corporation, they're all the same
Trust?
individuals working for each of these corporations. The same individuals had actually walked these properties with myself, Chief Fire Marshal John Rankin, Ryan Murphy over our Code Enforcement Division, another fire marshal, and a couple other officials. So again, we've asked that they fix this voluntarily at this point, but I'm asking the board to authorize this action in case that does not come to fruition.
And I did speak to Ryan Murphy about these properties. They are not only directly off of County Road 39, which is a heavily traveled road, they're also near a school, so the hazardous materials are the biggest concern right now.
And we would go out to bid to have somebody come in?
We have
and-
somebody
we have
already,
someone?
each year we put out a bid for enforcement actions and cleanups. So we already have vendors that we were able to contact pretty quickly. So we give a pretty short voluntary compliance date. We'd like to see updates on site inspections. Otherwise, we have the vendor come in.
Are there resolutions?
What's the time limit on,
There are, I believe, either today or the next meeting.
what would the time limit be on this?
We only give a couple weeks once the action is authorized.
And then you said we can add the cost to the tax bill?
Yes, there is language in each of these resolutions authorizing a tax relevy, where the whole amount is a contractor paid at prevailing wage added to the annual assessment for that year.
I don't think they're on this.
They may be on the next meeting's agenda. We like to give as much notice as possible, so
So
people
that
can't
right there gives
allege
them another 2 weeks.
they didn't
Yep.
have notice. But as you can see, all of these projects will take more than 2 weeks.
And they end up paying prevailing wage.
If we do it, it's prevailing wage, a government contractor. If the property owner does it, presumably they can do it much cheaper.
So all these pieces of heavy equipment are owned by the tenant?
Possibly, yes, we're not sure. The vehicles are easy to identify because they all have VIN numbers, and most of them have plates. The heavy equipment, we're not so sure. We would like to see it removed or registered properly.
I don't have any cards on this. Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Anyone on the board have any questions for Sean?
No.
All right, then move to close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the third public hearing?
Public hearing number 3, Chapter 261, to consider enforcement action at 445 County Road 39, Tuckahoe, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-158-133.
So this is another enforcement action. This property is situated slightly differently in that it previously and historically has been a junkyard at 445. Even for a junkyard, it does not meet our standards for the town code. So a junkyard must have 7-foot fencing in the entirety of the lot. Again, this is close proximity to a school. Some materials are outside of the required fenced area. In addition, within the junkyard, even though there's junk in there that's permitted, we need fire lanes. So we need enough room to get a fire truck in there. It's not uncommon for these types of items to go on fire, and it puts first responders at harm without appropriate fire lanes and division in the way the fire marshal is dictating. In addition, there's a fence that has been constructed in the middle of this property, essentially dividing it. That fence needs a gate or to be removed, because again, the fire marshal needs a clear shot to get an emergency vehicle all the way through this site from one side to the other. That's the main issue here. The junk needs to go within the junkyard. Some of the types of junk are not supposed to be stored here. For instance, there are oil containers, oil tanks, 250-gallon, 500-gallon drums. Those should not be stored at this site. So we're looking to remove some of those types of items. Chemicals that are in open containers, things like that. There is a protocol and a permitting process to run a junkyard. We'd like this owner to get the proper permits and handle all these materials properly. I'm going to hand up the photographs.
Sean, is it a operating business
There are several businesses operating on the site.
as a junkyard?
Junkyard, tire shop, and pest control company.
Okay.
This one also has homes neighboring the property. So you have families living next to this.
So the owner of all three properties are the same, is it the same entity?
Same group of individuals representing
Uh-huh.
these
The tenants
corporations.
are, some are different.
Again, they said they want to bring this property into compliance. We did see one side of fence go up, that's appropriate. So we'd like the rest of the property to be fenced in the same manner. Some vehicles to leave the site. And again, some of these materials to be organized and removed as the fire marshal has asked.
It's gonna be expensive to clean this up.
Right.
I don't have a card for this hearing, so Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Anyone on the board have any questions for Sean? All right, I move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Just make a comment on that?
You come up to the podium, thanks.
Hi,
Hi.
Rick Burkowski, Southampton Village. And just maybe, I know that it's a new board, but how does things like these violations didn't just happen overnight? These are years and years. People that live here see this day in and day out. I know Southampton's a big town, but we've always had code enforcement, we've had fire marshals, we've had all of that stuff that's supposed to try to prevent this. When things like this are building up, is no one watching it? I mean, it's happening, it seems like it's happening right underneath your nose. I know it's a difficult task, but it just seems like it's an enormous blatant violation that someone didn't pick up on it sooner.
Thank you for your comment.
I can address that point. We have roughly $220,000 of judgments against these various property owners and corporate entities. So these matters have gone to court, have gone to trial, have been defaulted. So these are not things that are being ignored. This is years of effort from our code enforcement, fire marshal, and building divisions. As I said earlier, we look for people to comply. We can get convictions, but we get money judgments. Money judgments don't actually fix conditions. This is our last step. So after I can articulate that we've done NOVs and summonses and had hearings and trials in court, that's when I get before this board and bring these types of actions, because they are a tax-free levy. These are very expensive to do. Essentially, the town lays out the money, levies this person's tax bill, and then they have to pay that. If they can't afford that, they go into a whole process where the county may end up taking their property.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Good explanation.
All right. Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the fourth public hearing?
Oh, we have
I
a
thought we
motion
did.
and a second.
Oh, right. All in favor?
Aye.
Cindy was.
Thank you. Now, please read the notice for the
You didn't.
fourth
I
public.
think I was the only one that voted.
All in,
Mean.
Everyone needs to.
we have a motion and a second on the
I said
floor.
all in favor. I thought everybody voted.
I just
No?
didn't hear any,
Oh.
everybody
Aye.
vote.
Aye.
that's all.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Aye,
All right.
missed it.
Okay, public hearing number 4, for applicant seeking an exemption from Town Code Chapter 314 entitled Moratorium on Battery Energy Storage Systems pursuant to subsection 314-6 entitled Applications That May Be Exempted.
I think the attorney for the applicant's online.
Kevin, is anyone online that wishes to speak? Okay.
We did receive correspondence that this attorney for the applicants was seeking to adjourn this matter. So that's, I believe that's what this attorney may be saying to us. Yeah.
They're declining to join the Zoom.
Decline?
Is it Keith Archer?
Kevin, is it Keith Archer?
It's Harris Blumenarcher?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they keep declining it.
Do you want to just try one more time?
Yeah, I'll give it one more try.
While Kevin is on that, I just wanted to bring to the public's attention, while I'm listed as a co-sponsor to this bill, I was informed that's how it was submitted, primarily because it's a non-discretionary piece of legislation. According to New York State law, that is one of the reasons.
Yes, if you want me to explain.
Yes,
Good
thank you.
evening, Supervisor, members of the board. I spoke with Keith Archer earlier this afternoon, so I'm sure he's going to be trying to be here. But as you know, we scheduled this meeting for you to hear a hearing on an exemption from the BESS moratorium. It was a non-discretionary act that this board had to comply with in order for due process. Everybody is entitled to request things. It does not mean that you are supportive of the request or anything like that, but
And
you
that-
do have to have the
And
hearing.
that's part of the moratorium, right?
Correct.
In
It's
order
right in the
for us
local
to have
law.
a moratorium, you have to have this.
Correct. You need that, like the zoning board of appeals has variances, you have to have some mechanism by which they can ask for relief. And this was that. Mr. Archer sent the board a letter requesting the adjournment. Initially, I think earlier in the week, last week, and then followed it up on Friday with a request as a result of the fact they could not post the property in time. So therefore, they'd asked that this be adjourned to June 25th at the evening meeting. I was waiting for him to make that request because it is in fact an applicant request, as is the hearing, so. the board's pleasure, you can either,
Adjourn.
yeah, of course, yeah, you can adjourn it, or I can try and get in touch with him. It's up to the board.
He did request it for today.
Correct.
And
He
was-
He, no,
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 he didn't
no, no,
request
he
it.
didn't request this initially. It
We
had
did.
been in the hopper, as I explained at work session, for so long that we just gave him the next available date.
Okay.
And it was a little bit fast, so in fairness, it would not be unusual or anything to give him the adjournment. But then we found out subsequently that in fact it had not even been posted. So we really didn't have the ability to open the hearing anyway. So we're just going to adjourn it. But he was supposed to make that request. He was cognizant that the board wanted him
But he
to.
did request it in writing.
Correct, he did, twice. So at the board's pleasure, I'll either try and get him, or we could table this and
I
come
think
back
we
to
should
it, or
just-
you
we
can
just
just
adjourn
adjourn
it.
it, it's up to
And-
you.
Yeah, I think.
Did he-
Go ahead.
Did he request any specific dates for an
June
adjournment?
June 25th,
Okay.
and that's a nighttime meeting at 6 o'clock.
Mhm.
Well, then I would,
But they're not starting on camera.
They are there?
Yeah, they're one of the panels, they're not starting their camera to join.
Can you inform them to open their camera?
I didn't join.
Okay.
Can we just adjourn it?
I mean, I think we have all the
Yeah.
background
Yeah.
that we need.
And to be
make a
honest, they
decision.
have to make the presentation to you, so it's really on them to be able to
Yeah.
do this.
They'll make the presentation on
There it is.
Correct, yeah.
I think he's coming now.
It's glitchy.
There it is.
Hi,
That's cute.
can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
hi.
Oh, I apologize. Keith Archer, Aberystwyth Archer, on behalf of Canal Southampton. Yes, we did send two letters, as Ms. Clara had indicated, requesting adjournment. We received the notice extremely late, nobody's fault. We appreciate that the town board actually granted our request, but there was not enough time to actually post the property, because we really didn't find out that we needed to pick it up. The poster installed literally the day before when we spoke with Seth, or when my paralegal spoke with Seth. So we appreciate that the board set the hearing date, and would request that the board establish an adjourned date for this hearing.
All right, well, does anybody have any other comments?
Nope.
All right, thank you for joining us. I move to adjourn the public hearing or hold it open until the June 25th.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you want to?
All right,
Thank you very much.
we will see you on the 25th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have somebody from the public.
Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the 5th public hearing?
Public hearing number 5, to consider authorizing the temporary alienation and discontinuance of Dozier Park, Community Preservation Fund, CPF Parkland, in furtherance of an exchange swap of 137 Pond Lane, Southampton, to be used as additional parklands within the town of Southampton.
Good evening, Jacqueline Fenlon, CPF Manager for the town of Southampton. We are here before you tonight. Hello, Madam Supervisor and Town Council members. So this is a public hearing for the land swap to allow for alienation on a temporary basis for Dozier Park in Southampton Village. That park is located at 43 South Main Street in the village of Southampton and is approximately 1.6 acres. This local law before you, being considered by the town board, is for a swap, and this swap would be in consideration of the purchase of 137 Pond Lane, which is owned by Agawam Lake LLC, and that is 4.82 acres in size. This legislation was introduced by the state and was enacted by the New York State Legislature on September 15th, 2023, and was signed by the governor that very same day. The intent of that, under Section 1, is that to determine and authorize the discontinuance as parklands and alienate the lands described in Section 3 of this act for the purpose of installing an algae skimmer to assist with the removal of blue-green algae in Lake Agawam. So our legislation before you is to enact a local law that will allow for the land swap and hopefully make this on for a public referendum for November's election day. Just to reiterate that Lake Agawam is listed as a 303D, which is a New York State impaired water body. And the pollutants for Lake Agawam are phosphorus as well as low dissolved oxygen. So this would allow for an algae skimmer to be located on Dozier Park for water quality purposes.
And what did you say before about an August deadline? What has to be done?
There's an August 5th deadline to have language submitted for the public referendum to be considered by
In
the county.
November.
That's for the Board of Elections.
Board of Elections, yes. Yep.
The term temporary, what, can you, how long is temporary? And if there's no date, then I don't see one in here. Who determines what's temporary?
Well, so the village presented this to us for the intent of the algae skimmer, which at first was considered to be, roughly 1 to 3 years, although due to installation and requiring this to be alienation to be adopted, they're looking now more, it might need to be like approximately 3 to 5 years, which is stipulated in the local law presented for you.
Okay.
But I'll also let our CPF, Assistant Town Attorney Dan McCormick, go into the specifics, because he really looked into this and can kind of provide more information on the temporary basis. But essentially that was, the intent originally that was proposed to the town board. And the state legislation is specific to that algae skimmer as well. I guess I'll let Dan explain the nature.
All right, thanks.
of
Please,
Come on up,
thank you.
Dan.
Yeah.
It's important to have this discussed in the public hearing, in my opinion. So thank you.
Good evening, members of the town board. Tonight's public hearing is the second component of a multi-phase process involving the alienation of property. This public hearing was born from and at the behest of the village with respect to a proposal to install an algae skimmer system on property commonly known as Dozier Park, street address 43 South Main Street. At the behest of the village, and as facilitated through the town, a bill was sponsored in Albany by Assemblyman Fred Thiel on the Assembly side, and by Senator Anthony Palumbo on the Senate side, with respect to specific parkland alienation legislation, which was the genesis for the proposal to swap 43 South Main Street, a parcel that the town of Southampton purchased in 2005, in part for parkland purposes, with property at 137 Pond Lane, to then be used in a swap scenario for like parkland property. Why? Because in the alienation format of the state has a policy of net zero loss of parkland property. So by swapping out a previously designated parkland parcel, in this case 43 South Main, with another designated parcel, 137 Pond, the state is serving the interests of the public and at least maintaining additional parkland during the time that this property will be under an algae skimmer system scenario. Now, to answer the question that has arisen concerning the nature of the temporary alienation here, right now no one can say how long the skimmer system is going to be operational in terms of its efficiency, its functionality, and its efficacy with respect to removing those pollutants from the lake. We are only going to know the answer to how long that system has to be installed as consultants for the village and their operators physically monitor the data coming in through that system over 1, 2, 3, and potentially up to 5 or more years with respect to this system. Therefore, we cannot say today it's going to be a hard 5 years, for example. No one knows. And that's born in part as well from what's known as non-point source pollution, which is entering that lake from multiple locations, chiefly from the north, but also from the northwest, northeast, and even adjacent properties. So even as this system is going to be enacted and running, that lake is still going to be taking non-point source pollution. And the question's gonna be as to how well that system can efficiently remove it until such time that another multi-phase project, the installation and upgrade of the sewer system and the water management system in Southampton, can adequately address those same situations.
Yeah.
So I want to be clear.
I'm sorry, I'll wait, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Yeah, if I could just kind
Yeah,
of get
two
all this out, and
questions for
I'm happy to answer any questions. The second aspect of this is in terms of alienation. I just want to be very clear for members of the public. This term alienation, what does it mean, right? It sounds a little intimidating, right? What does that mean? Alienation is simply a legal concept whereby previously dedicated parkland property is proposed to be used for non-parkland purposes. Here, as I've indicated, there's a proposal to install an algae system, which is clearly not parkland purposes, on designated parkland property. So again, by achieving the swap, we're achieving net zero loss of parkland property by swapping that out at a time frame to be determined by an algae system that quite frankly has not, been tested in this area yet. We don't know how the lake is going to respond to that system. And so that's important to consider here. Two important points as well. 43 South Main Street is approximately 1.6 acres, purchased by the town through CPF funding.
How much? How big?
Approximately 1.6 acres or so. Purchased for $3.1 million in 2005.
69,000 square feet or so.
Right, 69,989 to be exact in terms of square footage. The proposed substituted property at 137 Pond Lane is approximately 4.8 acres, roughly 209,864 square feet, with a proposed contract price of $13,250,000. So clearly, in terms of the additional parkland that's proposed to be added, it's more than like property in terms of the swap, and in terms of the alienation issue. And I think, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for being here tonight. I know you're going to add more to this. I think, quite frankly, everyone is united in interest in wanting to see that this lake has improved water quality, and that this system is going to be ultimately very successful. I think that's where we all stand. In speaking to the alienation issue, we don't know how long that term temporary is going to be needed at this point. As I've said, it could be 1, 3, 5, or even 6 or 7 years, depending on how efficient it is in terms of its service.
But it would never clean out all of the, it's not a fix to the problem, right? It's a continuing use is required.
That's correct, and as we've indicated before, this is really part of a multi-phase project involving an upgrade to the sewer system and the water management system surrounding the lake as well. Quite frankly, until that is really implemented, right, the lake is really going to be fighting, the skimmer system is going to be fighting a battle here, right, against not only the present impurities in the water, but any new impurities coming in from the tributary area. So that's something to be considered as well.
So the efficacy of the system is going to be determined by the village of Southampton. I mean,
As well as-
and I guess
Well,
science, whether or not. I mean, if they switch out the machines, on the park, I mean, they could. I'm sure you're going to add some. Speaking to the mayor, you're going to add some more information with this, right? Okay.
Right, and that is my
So-
understanding.
And I just want to, can I just, go ahead.
Please, no.
No, there's-
Councilwoman.
Was there an answer? I don't know if there's.
No, I know, Cindy. I'm not. It sounds like an open-ended, temporary alienation.
Right, to answer that
Right,
point,
right.
I think, again, we're all united in interest that at some point, this system is going to be removed from 43 South Main. Because A, it's either going to be determined to have removed sufficient amounts of the impurities that it's not needed, or B, quite frankly, it's not handling that load, and it's no longer efficient to have it installed at that juncture. Either way, at some point, there's going to be an end to the duration of that system.
Or
We
the
just-
village has a sewer system in place.
Correct. Hence the terminology temporary, because at some point, it's my understanding from this town board, from the previous town board, and quite frankly with discussions with the village, that this was really only a temporary use of this system. It's not designed to be permanently installed at 43 South Main in perpetuity. At some point, it's going to end, and I just wanted to make that clear as to why that language was utilized in the proposed local law, and why I think, quite frankly, it's the best way to go, because we don't know how well this system's gonna operate.
One of my questions is, when they're done, at the end of 5, 6 years, or whenever they're done, does it go back to parkland?
Yes.
And
Hence the terminology temporary alienation.
Because people have asked me that. And also,
That's my understanding.
if they decide not to put it there, to put it in another location, what happens to that property in the meantime?
Right, so I understand the mayor may speak to that issue, but to answer that question, if there are alternative considerations here, we certainly can weigh that. We're in a public hearing format right now.
Yeah.
If there are alternatives that are gonna be proposed, obviously you as elected officials can weigh those considerations and decide the best course of action based on the information that's provided at that point.
Thank you.
I just
And-
wanted to make it clear that it is a town park in the village of Southampton, but this referendum would have to be passed by a majority of the town residents. That means it would need support from Eastport to Sag Harbor.
That's correct, and thank you for raising that issue, Madam Councilwoman. As I indicated, this is part of a multi-phase process. The first phase was the legislation sponsored by Senator Thiel and Senator Palumbo that Jackie had referred to, that passed and was enacted. The second phase is this local law consideration, which may only go forward if 4/5 of this town board, i.e. 4 of you at a minimum, vote for this to go forward as a proposed local law. And the third component, of course, of this multi-phase process is a general referendum, mandatory in nature, before the electorate here in the town of Southampton, town-wide, on November 5th, to pass this by majority rule. Otherwise, this system will not be afforded its use at that location.
Dan, in your discussions with the village, when this is done and it's done its job, and we're going to be returning this park, who bears the cost of removing the machines, taking the pipe out, remediating the ground, and taking the electric service out?
I believe that would be a matter of contractual negotiation, but it's my understanding that would be the village's responsibility at that juncture,
Okay.
since they're going to actively contract with the party to bring that system in.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilman Isolde, no question?
And when the town provided funding for the algae skimmer, was there an understanding that the town would be able to use it when the village was finished with it? I thought I remembered hearing that at a
There
prior meeting.
was, but we never really got an answer as to the life expectancy of it and if it would have a lifespan beyond its use at Agawam. So I guess that remains to be seen,
See how portable it is.
and how temporary it is.
I understand, obviously, the issue here has to do with temporary versus permanent. Are you able to, inform us on whether or not we could add contingencies, since a lot of this has to do with the sewer, the establishment of the sewer? Is there anything that can be established within the language to ensure that it remains temporary until the establishment of a certain period of time? Can we put that in there, or no, that's not something we can really work out with the village ahead of time?
I mean, that's something we certainly could take under advisement, but again, we're relying on professionals in this area, right, of which, at least I don't have the expertise, I assume most of us don't, where they would have to be advising the village and/or us indirectly as to a particular time frame or conditions that would serve that interest.
Right.
I think that's really the
So
only thing
upon
we
it-
can consider.
So upon expert advisement, that could be something considered.
Yes, and going back to the original parkland alienation legislation from Assemblyman Thiel
Yeah.
and Senator Palumbo, the Assemblyman specifically enacted or proposed this, that was passed by the legislature, for enactment and operation of this algae skimmer system. That was the purpose of the legislation, with the additional component of the swap to protect additional parkland. So to speak to that concern, certainly by the Assembly and the State Senate as well as the Governor, that algae system is really the focal point, and its efficiency is the most important thing, because without that, this is all for naught.
And this legislation is specific to algae skimmer,
That is correct.
not another piece of equipment that might,
The state
would have-
legislation explicitly states it is for the purpose of the installation of an algae skimmer system serving the interests of that property and the lake indirectly.
In addition to the local grant from the water quality, CPF Water Quality, the Village of Southampton also received a federal grant. I'm sure you'll tell us about that in a moment.
Does anyone have any other questions for me at this juncture?
No,
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Very thorough.
Mayor Manger, would you like to address the board?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor and members of the town board. Bill Manger, yes, Mayor of the Village of Southampton, and this has been in the works for quite a while now, and I feel like we're getting close to the home stretch here. But going back, actually, I found a copy of the 1970 master plan for the Village of Southampton, and in fact, the land on Pond Lane was shown on that plan as a possible park for the village. So by acquiring 137 Pond Lane, we will be fulfilling one of the requests in the 1970 master plan for the village. But really, what we're here to talk about is, again, the necessity for the swap of that parcel being acquired at 137 Pond Lane with Dozier Park on the east side of Lake Agawam. And that is, just as we've been discussing here, to allow for algae harvesters. Actually, there will be 3 lined up so they can treat 3 million gallons of water a day. That lake is over 60 acres, so it's going to take a while, and we're not going to see immediate results. And that's why there is this temporary nature to it. And in fact, the people from AECOM that are bringing this online don't know exactly how the lake will react and how it will take to it being cleaned. It's really the algae that needs to be cleaned from the lake, and that's what's causing the problem. And that's really because of the nitrogen that's leaching into the lake. And you're correct. Eventually, if we have a sewer system and we don't have all the central business district ending up through septic systems into the lake, we hope that this will not then necessitate this. But we don't know exactly how long this will take and how it will react. We are working with Chris Gobler from Stony Brook, who is the scientific expert on this, and he has been monitoring the lake now for some time. We've done some other programs initially to try and treat the lake, but we feel that really at this point we need to go this step further to really try and clean the lake because it's not reacting to the smaller steps that we've been able to take so far. We also have plans to put in a permeable reactive barrier along the north end of Lake Agawam to help mitigate some of the leaching that goes into the lake from the central business district. That's by drilling holes and then putting actually wood chips in it and hoping that will filter some of the water and effluents that's leaching into the lake. But that will come later. But right now, we are trying to move forward with the algae harvester, and we know that we need permission of the entire town electorate to move forward with this, and we obviously want to encourage them to vote for this in November, because this will, again, advantage the water quality of the lake for now and future generations, and we believe it will help us to turn the tide, no pun intended, on the lake and its future while we try and bring a sewer online. Which again, we're hoping is going to maybe be in the next, few years here. But what the only concern is we have is that, we may use this for 3 to 5 years and then find that it starts to slip back again when we discontinue the use. So one concern I just have to voice is that we would like the ability, if in say year 7 or 8, that we see the lake water quality slipping back again, we would like to be able to bring the algae harvester back to have it operational again. We just, again, it's sort of an unknown area. No scientist or the AECOM representative has been able to tell us exactly how they think the lake will react. It will take, they say, at least 3 years, though, of the algae harvester running, and it would run 9 months out of the year. It will not run in the winter months. But 9 months out of the year, it will be running 24/7, again, 3 million gallons of lake water a day to be cleaned and, again, take out the algae. But again, so the concern is we don't know, again, what, as Councilman Scavone was saying, we don't know what temporary is exactly, and we want to be able to be sure that we could come back if we need to, because, again, with the money we are receiving from the town, which we're very appreciative of, and the $5 million that Senator Schumer got us from the federal government to, again, acquire these 3 machines that are going to be placed in the park, we will then have those, and we would like to be able to ensure that we could bring them back if, after a certain number of years, we see that the lake quality is slipping back, and we want to do something again to try and clean it again. We're hoping that the sewer will take care of a lot of that, but no one knows exactly how the lake water will react to this application. But we're very appreciative, certainly, of the town board working with us on this. It's very important. And, this is the best location that we were able to figure out to locate the algae harvester. We looked at, the whole perimeter of the lake, and this seemed to be the most logical place to put it because, again, its proximity, obviously, to the lake water. And when they put the piping into the lake, it's actually going to run the whole length of Lake Agawam. So it's going to take the water out from the north end and put the purified water back in at the south end. So it's going to have a sort of a motion to it that it's taking out from one area and putting back in the other when it's purified. Someone explained that it's a little bit like the filter you might have in an aquarium that filters the water constantly. But this will definitely take out the algae. And what we also need to have is the ability for trucks to be able to pick up the algae. At first there'll be quite a bit, but it should slow down as the process continues. And so that's why we wanted it in close proximity to the parking lot in the heart of the village, so that the trucks could pick up the sludge and then take that out of the village to a site that I think they've identified somewhere mid-island. But that is what the process is, and this seemed to be the most logical for the placement of the equipment, knowing what they have to do in the lake, and then having the ability to take some of the algae out of that site and to an appropriate facility. So we looked again, as I said, at other locations. We looked at the end of Linden Lane. It's not big enough, and we just put a bioswale in there. So this one made the most sense from a lot of different aspects. But I guess that was all I was going to explain. Obviously, I think trading, an alienation 1.6 acres for almost 5 acres on the opposite shore, is a good swap, and certainly is fair to the benefit of the general public. And then we would have this additional parkland that, as I started off by saying, was part of the 1970 master plan for the village. But I certainly I can answer, I hope, any questions you have, although on the technology and the science, I don't know that. But we do have, as I said, Chris Gobler from SUNY Stony Brook, who really is an expert in this area, and he's going to be monitoring the quality of the water with us as this progresses.
You said 3 million gallons a day.
A day is what
processes.
the machines can handle. I guess each machine can handle 1 million gallons, and they have proposed that we actually have 3 machines in a row, so that's how we get to the 3 million gallons a day.
Mhm. And what about the noise from this? Is there some kind of noise?
So it's
background?
actually it's very limited. I've been heard it's similar to a pool motor. 3 pool motors running all the time, except for the 3 months in the winter. But that's why we're trying to put it, at close to the parking lot as possible, so that it is away from any residences and from annoying anybody. But it's told that it's not abnormally loud. And there's no smell from it because it's in a contained building on the site. So except for when the truck has to come and pick up some of the material, that's really the only time that it's going to be anyone's going to be going there to interact with the remains of the algae.
And I'm sure if there is noise or smell as the mayor, you'll be the one.
Oh, I'm sure I'll get phone calls in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Would you tell us about the site plan development a little bit?
Yeah, so it's actually gone through different.
You mentioned a building.
Yeah, it's gone through different iterations. It definitely is going to have a fencing around it.
Mm-hmm.
There will be actually at the front, facing the parking lot, a kiosk that's going to be explaining what's going on here. So when people come up to it and they say, well, what's this? It'll be a little explanatory and give people a little science lesson on how the system works and what it's there to do. Then within the and that we're hoping to do this again on the edge of the parking lot, perhaps encroaching in on the village parking lot a little bit. We don't want to lose parking spaces, obviously, because those are at a premium. And we're also thinking that if we have the park across the street at 137 Pond Lane, we might need to have some additional parking in that area so that visitors coming to Agawam Park or to 137 Pond Lane have a place to park, because as you know, there's no parking along Pond Lane really of any significance. So, that's still, we've had multiple iterations of how the plan is going to be laid out, and we haven't finalized that yet, but it basically is trying to put it as close into the parking lot as possible, and possibly having some additional parking on the side of the perimeter of the algae harvester, so that again we don't lose parking in the Job's Lane parking lot. But again, there have been different iterations. It hasn't quite been finalized, but obviously what we want to do, Councilman McNamara, is ensure that we buffer the noise as much as possible from the surrounding area. And so that's part of the plan at all as well. There will be a small building where they're going to have some storage on the site. But other than that, that is really all that is involved in the delineated area that will be devoted to the algae harvesters.
Now, the grants were issued a couple of years ago now, actually, by
Yes.
your predecessor. Is there a lifespan on the grant?
No, I've been
federal?
told, I've been told that it'll be, I don't know, here's the town board, but it's supposed to be evergreen as long as we're making progress, and we keep telling them we're making progress, and it should still be there for when we are needing it. Is that the way the money from the town works? I hope, Madam
That's
Supervisor.
my
I was asking about the federal grant.
No, that's supposed to be still fine. I've checked on that a couple of times, Councilman Scavone, but I'll check again. But they said it's fine. And in fact, when I saw Senator Schumer last year, he reminded me that he got me $5 million. I said, "Thank you very much, Senator. We look forward to using it." Any other questions, Councilman Pell? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, is there anybody online on Zoom who wishes to speak?
No one on Zoom.
Any other questions from the board?
No, just a comment. It's an interesting test of technology, and I appreciate the village for doing this, because, you admittedly said that you're not quite sure how the pond is going to react with this.
Yeah,
And
the e-com technology has been used down south.
Mhm.
It's never been used up here. So again, that's why they didn't want to run it during the winter when it gets cold and there possibly could be some freezing in the lake. But it's worked on bodies of water down south. And so they believe it will work here. And Chris Gobler, when he's looked at all of the specs on what's supposed to happen, he agrees that this is the best remediation plan that we could have right now. Again, while we wait to get a sewer system online. So because everything, as you probably know, travels almost from the entire village down in that direction to Lake Agawam, which is one of the lowest points in the village. And so it's not just coming from the buildings surrounding the lake, it's actually coming from way up, even we're putting in bioswales shortly at Bowden Square, because even again, the stormwater from and effluents at Bowden Square is slowly leaching. It all goes there, it just takes a matter of time, but it's all slowly leaching in a southerly direction to Lake Agawam, unfortunately. But anyway,
And you
thank
have an arrangement, you said already, with Dr. Gobler for the periodic testing?
Yes, and in fact, I speak to him quite frequently. He's very engaged on that. He's also, helping us right now with, as I mentioned briefly, the permeable reactive barrier that we're going to drill along the north shore of Lake Agawam to try and stop some of that effluence from flowing into the lake. But he's been a great help, and he's been working with the Lake Agawam Conservancy, and he's in for the long haul. Yeah.
Oh, good, very good.
I just wanted to add also that the Water Quality Award also required that they give us analysis on a yearly basis. So the monitoring that will be contracted through Chris Gobler and the village will then be put into a report for the town to consider and review,
Okay.
just so you're aware.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, if there's no other comments, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the 6th public hearing?
Public hearing number 6, to amend Town Code Chapter 312-62, parking by permit at Wildwood Lake Park.
Hello again, members of the town board. So this legislation would be to essentially extend a pilot program your predecessors enacted, but make it full-time. So this was a weekend holiday parking schedule. This has been brought forward by Councilman Schiavone and Councilman Pell to extend the parking. Essentially, this is a spot that became over-occupied. So there are many, many people enjoying this spot, but sometimes too many. So we need our first responders to be able to get in there and respond accordingly. There is a neighbor, there's a church that's under construction. We've had communication with their representatives. They are still going to be under construction. We've put the language designated spaces in here so that we can reserve some spaces or come to an arrangement when that is needed. But for now, they did support this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to add a couple of comments here. Thank you, Sean. Mr. Cambridge, that we are putting this in place to make it for residents only. It will be through the season up at Wildwood Lake. It's an interesting assemblage of properties. One of the property nearest or on the water is actually a Southampton Town trustee property, whereas the parking lot area is Southampton Town. We are working with Legislator Stark from Suffolk County, and we are going to be extending the no parking signs on the county road out in front as well. So that is what we were doing as far as parking is concerned. So thank you.
So we're not extending the pilot. We already extended the pilot program for 1 year, but this is a new permanent law.
Correct.
That's
Same
correct.
area,
Yes.
different regulation. So the pilot program was only a weekend holiday schedule. This is a full-time parking by permit local
Through
law.
the season.
Through the season.
Yeah.
Like at the beaches.
And just to be clear, it's anybody that has a parking permit, it's not just town residents, right?
There are non-resident permits issued by our Parks Department as well. There are different costs than resident permits,
They're more
obviously. But it's parking by permit all the time.
That's right.
Where's the public hearing for this one? And it applied, I'm sorry, I can't find my resolution. Oh,
Timeframe?
All times.
Well, from the 15th of May till the.
No, it's all times. We took out that language. Right, Councilman?
I didn't hear the question.
It's the parking
kinda
by
low.
permit only at all times? Does that mean outside of the summer season?
It is between May and September. That's what the town allows with our parking permits.
Okay.
It used to say that in here. Is that in here? Yeah, May 15th to September 15th. I thought it
Is that
said-
correct? I mean, that's, that was my understanding, is that we,
Our parking program is
Right.
administered
Yeah,
by our Parks
municipal
Department.
parking.
The language at all times was requested specifically, so it was included in this draft. But they are seasonal restrictions administered by our Parks Department.
So there's an option.
Yeah, they can cover the signs at some point. They have those abilities.
So then the code, the resolution we passed recently for the holidays and weekends is now moot, really, because this is more
Yes.
encompassing.
It's a conflicting local law, so the last one adopted would take precedent.
Okay.
And I only asked about the seasonality because on the bottom, where it says summary of proposed law, it says year-round parking by permit at Wildwood
Yeah,
Park.
it changes everything, I think. Changes it all.
So that's the only reason why I
No,
asked.
that's, actually,
So
I'm
that-
fine with that.
I am too, but I just,
Yeah, but it's inconsistent, right?
yeah.
Whereas
So,
other
because we're not
sections-
saying
Other
year-round.
sections of town, it's seasonal.
What do you want to do about that?
Well, the law doesn't say seasonal, it's at all times, it's year-round.
Well, it says something on the front. I did see that, May to
Well, that's, of
December.
course, this is, that's the current language in 31262, that, a
That
lot
we're
of the, a
removing.
lot of it does not apply to the Wildwood, it's applied to other locations in the town.
So Jim, is this
You need a beach sticker to
seasonal
park
or
there.
year-round? Because I thought we were doing a seasonal, but now it's not clear if it says,
I thought we were doing seasonal.
So-
But-
We'd spoken, the sponsors had requested all year. We can certainly change this, we can
what
withdraw this.
sponsors? I thought Tommy John.
It was Councilman
sponsor.
Scavone and Powell were the two sponsors on this.
Yeah,
So I
and-
don't recall specifically, but
Councilman Scavone thought it was seasonal.
this was the request. So we draft based on your request as the policy decision makers. I can certainly change this if you'd
No.
like.
No,
I
let's
mean,
keep this.
did you
Keep it.
request
With it.
that it's year-round? This seems confusing.
I didn't think that we were able to do that because of other portions of our code. However, I like this.
Okay.
And
I think
we
you're
will
better
certainly
off.
do
I'm
it.
fine with it
all
too, I
year
just
round.
wanted it to be clear.
Mhm. Okay, so let's go on with the
Okay.
all year. Thank you, Sean.
What number are we on?
6.
Okay, I do have some cards. Oh, Beverly Perkowski. Come on up. Hi, Beverly.
Hi, how are you, Marie? Thank you, Town Board, for allowing me to speak. I want to start by saying thank you very much for what you have been trying to do for us. We still have problems. We had a problem before Memorial Day. The signs went up, and I'm looking out my kitchen window, and I see a car parked right under the sign. Then, okay, here we go. And that doesn't matter whether you have a permit or not on the sign on the highway. So I waited and I waited. This was around 2 o'clock when I looked out my kitchen window and seen it. Finally, at 20 to 5, the car was still there. I said, okay, here we go. So I called the police. That means no police had come in the area within 3 hours' time. So I called the police and I said, this car parked out there, right directly under the sign that says no parking, will be towed away. The board said, okay, whoever I spoke to on when I called the police, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited. No one came. I was told someone would be down there. So it was 20 after 5. They'd been there since 2 o'clock. Finally, they pulled away. I still didn't see any police come around even after that. So then we go a week later to Sunday, the day before Memorial Day. As I'm pulling out of my driveway at 20 after 8 in the morning to go to church, I pull around, and in the parking lot is filled. There might have been 2 spots that were not filled. I didn't have time to go check to see if they had permits. I had to get to church. I come home from church. I drove through. Not one car in that parking lot had a permit. There was no tickets on the cars. I said, here we go. It's Memorial Day. We're starting. I go home, and you hear the noise. You hear the music. Everyone's over there. We called the police. Finally, I think it was 3 o'clock, something like that, when the police came. The next thing we're told is one gentleman was pulled away in handcuffs and taken away and arrested. Why or what, I don't know. All I know is another neighbor went down right onto the beach, and there was at least 4 to 5 bonfires or open pit fires where they were cooking. Those are not allowed, and they're not contained. There are no barbecue pits down there. They're not supposed to have any flames down there. So my problem is unless the police are there and go in and out of that park 3, 4, 5 times a day, we're gonna have a problem. We need someone there to say, no, you cannot come in, you do not have a permit. It's gonna be a problem, and the scary thing is there's gonna be a fire. There's so much dead wood down there, and they're building, I had pictures, they're building fires right at the bottom of a tree. So something has got to be done. Like I said, I thank you for your help and what you've done, but unless the police are gonna go in there and unless we tow that car away and let them know we're not putting up with this, it's still gonna keep happening. But thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. Alan Perkowski.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor and Town Board members. We do thank you for what you're doing. Mr. Savoni, we thank you very much for putting this in and adding it for year-round. I have to remind you, though, the signs by the Parks Division say those dates, from May 15th to September. So by issuing those, it's got to be changed there on that. Also, the church is building, but they also got a stop work order because they went beyond what their permit required. Instead of doing just the roof, they're doing the siding and everything. There is a stop order, and that was issued, I believe, May 6th. The incident my wife talks about, when we did call the police, Southampton did not solve the problem. State police had to come. Once the state police got there, that's when one of them was carried away in handcuffs. I understand it was a very holiday sick weekend, but supposedly we have 2 patrol cars in that area. One patrol car had 2 officers in it, that's all we had. Now I understand there's other things going on, but somehow it's got to be stressed to the Parks and Recreation. Somebody's got to enforce it. We can't always rely on the police. They're doing other things, and I understand that. I was a cop myself years ago. I went through the Citizens Police Academy. I was one of the first candidates. I know what our officers go through. But it's not being enforced. When I went before you last month and brought before you that the petition or the ordinance, whatever you want to call it, was for the parking outside the parks. The next day, the signs went up. The highway supervisors asked me for the resolution, and I gave it to him, and he looked at where the restrictions were. Signs went up there. There are other residents that want it extended further down, but they have to come before you to express that. It's got to be enforced. That's all we're asking for. You did everything you could possibly do. You know, you put up the signs for the parking permits, you put up the signs out on the roads, which we were told the town couldn't do because it's county land. Well, it turned out to be that the signs did go up the very next day. We thank
And that
you
was
for
the county, right?
What
And
was
you got
that?
permission from the county to do that.
You got permission, yes, you did. You did, you worked hard. I thank you for that.
Mm.
You know, but they went up the very next day, once I showed you that the permit, the law was already there. The ordinance was already there, passed in October, November, I don't remember the exact month, for those signs to be put up, but they were never put up. Thank you. Thank you for listening to us. Please, but come down on the weekend, see what's going on. And we get so annoyed when we see the cars turn up west. And we know they're from Babylon and Huntington and whatever. We have pictures of these cars. Thank you very much for working with us and listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Sheldon.
Hi, my name's Chris Sheldon, Wildwood Lake. You've heard all the thank yous, and it's been a lot of fun this past year. One of the problems that happened in the past couple of weeks, I think, is we were in between what the permit signs permit and what the new legislation will permit. And so My guess is that the police didn't know how to enforce something that's in limbo.
It's new.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And it's the
right.
beginning of the summer.
Right.
Okay.
right. So we're not upset.
Okay.
But I just want to give you upbeat information, okay? Wildwood Lake is unique. It is the largest inland freshwater lake on the East End. It's the second largest inland water lake on Long Island after Lake Ronkonkoma. So it's amazing. 90% is preserved as far as the shoreline. The remaining 10% has some houses. Many of them are set back. And you have the beach property, which is the town. So I came up with an idea. Hope you like it. It has to do with the word park. We all know how to spell park. Each letter can stand for something. Right now, P for park is what we're accomplishing now, which is parking permit signs, okay? That's clear and indisputable, and that's great. We're happy. The next thing is an agreement, A. We need an agreement between this board and the town trustees, okay? It seems complicated because that beach is supervised, owned, the parking lot and so forth by two different boards. It's not that complicated. We just got to put our heads together and come up with an agreement. Maybe there's a way that everybody can save face. Maybe there's a way to have a 50-year lease between the two boards. So we're optimistic about that. R, from the word park, stands for revenue. Once we get the agreement, then we get the revenue, and we get a budget for the year 2025. And we start fixing and the remaining issues for the beach itself. And we work with Parks and Rec. There's also a New York State $150 million program that's being sponsored by the state, and it's called the SWIMS Capital Grant Program. That's a lot of money. And what they want to do is provide swimming lessons for the kids, safety. And that's the K in the word park. It stands for kids. And the northwest quarter of the town of Southampton, there aren't too many private swimming pools on these properties, okay? And these people don't travel to the ocean beaches to go swimming. We have a beach, we can provide it, and we can make sure it's safe for the kids. So, to review, we got the parking permits, we need an agreement, we need revenue, and we need to save the kids. Simple, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Jacques Comer.
Howdy, everybody. Nice to see you all again. You're really getting kind of a group from Wildwood. But that's because the people at Wildwood are not just concerned, but you can sense, most notably from Alan and Beverly, the fact that this kind of frustration has been rising for a long, long time. And the disenfranchisement that this part of the town has felt has also come through, certainly in the meetings that we've had with you all, and in some of the things that we've talked to with other people. So there are some things to settle, and obviously you do get kudos for both the temporary resolution before and now making this a permanent resolution. Year-round, sounds good to me. That's great, especially if it's enforced. If it's enforced, then the message will actually go out that this is actually town property. Trustees, town, all the above, and that the use there is regulated. You did miss a bit of an opportunity, and we did talk about this in other meetings. The opportunity was to set the tone the very first weekend. Admittedly, there was enforcement there, but it was behind. And when you start up behind, then it's hard to catch up, especially if the word gets out on Facebook groups and other groups that actually spread the word that this is a great place to come, which you'll never hear anything different from me. It's a great place to come. And, you know, save us from the ravages of Lake Agawam forever. You know, we don't want to be in that kind of position. So we also don't want to, ignore the fact that there is an overutilization of a natural resource, and that there are things that the town must do to preserve this resource, not just for the local residents, but for everybody. So please continue with the meetings that we've had in discussions about this with the Wildwood Neighborhood Watch Group. Please continue and, if possible, beef up the enforcement. Really make it known to the Southampton Town Police Force. Great bunch of guys too. That you really need this done now, so that it shuts it down for the summer, so that we can make a bigger plan that establishes programs like Chris mentioned, and maybe other things that this lake, this beautiful gem, can be used effectively, can be utilized by the neighbors and utilized by Southampton Town, and become really more of what it is. There's so much more that we can do, and I really appreciate your help and assistance in achieving some of those things. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Donna Ferrara Gregory.
Madam Supervisor, Town Board, I want to thank you for the parking full-time all year, because that was one of the reasons I came tonight, to discuss that issue. The only way to get to this beach is through the parking lot. And as you've heard, there's limited spaces and there's no enforcement. And as soon as you enter this parking lot, there's a sign. It says no pets, no alcoholic beverages, no bonfires, no littering, no household garbage, no amplified music. Well, all of that goes on. It goes on all the time. And there's no one to enforce it. And my question is, why is this town of Southampton Beach, why do we not have enforcement in terms of when the car approaches the entrance, we have town personnel checking to see if there are passes? We do it at all the other town beaches in Southampton, but why can't we do it here? I don't understand. We can't expect the police to be there day and night, but we can employ people during the summer to check for passes. We do it at every other beach in the town of Southampton. Why don't we do it here? Why is the exception being made in Northampton? It makes no sense.
We have other places that don't have that.
Do they have
It's not the exception, that's.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it's a minority.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and we have so many problems there, and it's just terrible. But I appreciate what you're doing, and I'm grateful and I'm thankful. I just hope that we continue the enforcement, because that's the problem. That's where the disconnect is. So even if you would consider summer help to check passes, because the police can't be there all day and the cars come in, they don't have passes, and nobody is able to, we're not able to do anything about that. And then they go out and park on the road because there aren't enough spots, as you know. For a beach this size, there's only a limited handful of parking spaces. But thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for listening to our grievances this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Gregory.
Thank you, Supervisor and members of the board. I had an opportunity to speak to one of the trustees not too long ago, and they described Wildwood Lake as the most pristine body of fresh water in the entire town of Southampton. And as a lifelong resident, I'm saddened to see what has been transpiring over the last many years, as this particular beach at the end of the lake has become more and more overcrowded, and as a result, the violations with, as I mentioned, fire and so forth, have become more extreme. The other thing I'd like to point out is that it doesn't just affect the residents who live in that immediate area where this church is and the beach is itself, but I live on Old West Hampton Road, which is a road that runs parallel to Wildwood Lake on the east side. And I can tell you that the noise and the debris and the garbage that floats to the east side of the lake is being generated at this park. And when the wind blows, the trash, it's an everyday thing. It affects every property owner all the way around the perimeter of the lake, not just those who live in the immediate vicinity of the park. And so I would encourage anything that the board could do to enforce those regulations and restrict the overcrowding of this little beach park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
I'll just say, I agree that, we can pass all the rules that we want, but without enforcement, they're not worth the paper they're written on. So we're gonna talk internally about what we can do about that.
I would just like to say that I have met with Jackie Fenlon, our CPF director, and Kristen Doulos, our director of parks, to discuss the need for park rangers, which would enhance the park's ability to ensure that they're enforcing the rules, but also to ensure our CPF properties, because there are some CPF properties that are shared with parks, because Wildwood is a great example. It is a CPF purchased, but managed by parks. So we're working with HR currently, Human Resources, to see if we can find additional personnel to help with some of the needed enforcement, especially of our parks and CPF properties.
Well, this particular hearing has a resolution that's on for tonight, so we will have the opportunity to vote on this evening.
Thank you. All right, if there's nothing else, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the 7th and final public hearing?
Certainly. Public hearing number 7. To consider a regulation restricting turns from Flying Point Road onto Diamond Court Watermill during certain times.
Hello again, Supervisor Moore, members of the town board. We brought this forward tonight at the request of the Highway Department and sponsored by Councilman Iselli. Two notable changes, the time frame from 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. And on the left turns, there was an exception for school buses. That language was not there on the right turns for some reason. So we've added that language as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Just to clarify, Sean, so the time frame now is from 6 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
On this draft, correct.
On both.
And just to be clear, there's no exemptions for residents, for deliveries, for anything else between those hours?
No.
Good point.
What was that about the school buses?
They allow school buses.
There was specific
The restriction
language,
doesn't apply to school.
for the left turn prohibition, except for school buses, that was added to the right turn prohibition as well. That language was not previously there. So the buses could only make a left, not a right.
What do you mean? Off of where?
So off of,
For Flying Point Road. From
Right.
both. The school buses are allowed to make the turns. That's
correct.
They can make left and right turns?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. You have to have school buses going
Yep.
in the streets. That's a no-brainer.
So it doesn't apply to school buses,
Yeah, absolutely.
basically?
Yeah, of course
That's
not.
what we're saying.
Of course not.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And what you're saying is it wasn't included in the language before?
The original
but
draft
now-
that I had introduced, yeah, that language, Sean, was not included, but we made sure that was included.
Okay. Well, I do have some cards. The first one is Candace Clanahan.
Hi. I'm actually here for my parents because I grew up on Henry Road between North Sea Road and Major's Path, and that road has become a high-speed highway. When I grew up there, it was not like that, which I know a lot of roads have become that way. But last year, I called the engineers department, I called the highway department, and I spoke with Councilwoman Cindy McNamara, and you really tried to help us, but it came down to they weren't doing that for any other roads anymore, because I had used Diamond Court and Shrubland as examples of how they have the signage that shows the hours that people can't go down, which is usually the trade parade. But at that point, they weren't doing it. But if this gets changed, then it is being done with other streets. They're getting another exemption. And we're not getting anything because supposedly it's not happening now. So that's where I'm coming.
What's not happening?
That streets can have the signage that says from whatever time to whatever time people can't come through. Last year I was told that that wasn't happening anymore.
Henry Street is a shortcut off County Road 39.
This is the other part. It's the part that
Okay.
goes from North Sea
To that one.
to Major's Path.
Yeah, that's another shortcut.
But
We
it's
have issues in the morning and the afternoon.
yes. And in the middle of the day, not a problem. It's beginning of the day, end of the day. So I said, what about speed bumps? I'll put them out. And City was like, no, you can't do that.
Please
So
don't.
something has to be done. So if something can be done for them, why can't something be done for other streets? That's my question, particularly Henry Road.
That was brought up when we did this, and it's now we should actually look at that street again and see what we can do for that neighborhood.
Okay,
There's
that
a-
would be wonderful.
There's a traffic, you're head of the traffic.
Traffic mitigation task force.
Yes, can look into it.
Yeah, we could look into it. I mean, there's plenty of roads where we, provide these restrictions. And it's just a matter of, having the engineering department or having our highway department deem it acceptable. What we're doing here is an existing regulation. It's an
But it's-
existing, it's an existing regulation that we're just extending based on determination that was made by the highway department, as well as the police department, that it's totally acceptable.
But you can see how that appears unfair to other roads that feel that it's not just.
Well, you're
we're-
here now and you're here to address
Yeah.
us, and we're happy, as Councilman Pell said, we're happy to look at it and try to do what we can to make sure that we address your concerns.
And I would do whatever you need to help you.
So,
So if you want me to
contact
stand
me,
out
yeah.
there and video record.
So I have a list of roads that I've also run by the chief of police that he
Okay.
agrees if we extend this one. There's a list of roads in the town that should be looked at the same way. I mean, there's from East Street in Flanders, there's roads in Hampton Bays that are strictly just used as cut-throughs. There's several in Hampton Bays. There is Henry Road. There is Old Mill Road into Watermill. There's a list of roads that we're gonna have to look at.
But honestly, even if you did, maybe the flow would be better because they're not a bunch of hamsters and guinea pigs going through the causing accidents. There's an accident always on North Sea Road where they're coming out of Henry because they're not you can't look this way enough times. So it's just
They-
dangerous for everyone,
They
really.
drive very fast in that.
Yes.
So Councilman Pell and I are happy to look into it. Feel free to
Okay.
email us,
Okay.
and we'll sit down and talk, and we'll meet with Highway and assess accordingly.
Thank you.
Sure.
Very appreciated.
Gary Clanahan.
I think my daughter said
She did it very well. Rick Burkowski. Come on down.
Okay. This woman and all of us that have lived here forever, I can complain in this juncture that I hate to use us and them, okay? We've been here for generations. I used to drive a tractor lawnmower from Hayground Road down Head of Pond Road with no problem. There were no stop signs at Deerfield and Head of Pond intersection. We have just become overpopulated, whether it's the beach at Wildwood, it's the highway, County Road 39. I don't see how you're going to solve the problem by shutting down the roads. First of all, I believe they are public roads maintained by taxpayer money. Everyone should be able to use them. There should be no restrictions as to time frame for whatever reason. I sold my house 20, 30 years ago on Head of Pond Road. I use that example about driving my tractor lawnmower because that's how easy it was. The complaints we hear, oh, I have traffic in front of my house, it's dangerous, I can't walk my grandchild. Well, I've lived here 64 years. My grandparents were here. My great-grandparents were here. I spent 20 minutes trying to get out of my driveway on Head of Pond Road 30 years ago. You're not going to solve the problem by shutting down the roads. And I keep going back to public roads, taxpayer money. My money is maintaining Diamond Court and Mill Farm Lane. It's maintaining Henry Road. It's maintaining Mary's Lane. It's maintaining the roads that you mentioned in Hampton Bays and East Quogue. They're all over. Signs are not going to solve the problem. What the highway superintendent did at Little Cobb Road last year was a good idea. You can zip, what do they call it? Zipper in. Shutting off Old Mill Road, again, you're dealing with taxpayer money, but that's a super safety issue. You're crossing the lanes. That was a great idea. I think that's very helpful. The point I want to make, and because I am a school bus driver, it is very important for us to get back to the bus garage so that we can get to another run, to pick up a different bus, so forth and so on. Another point I want to make, I've driven that road now since I've been employed by the school for 5 years, every day during the week, from 6 o'clock, anytime between 6 o'clock and 6:10. And I've come back that way with the school bus anytime between 8:10 and 8:20. Listen to me. Not one time, not one single time in 5 years of using that road have I seen a resident trying to get out of their driveway. I have not seen one time anyone walking a stroller. What I'm trying to express to you is it's not a problem of safety. It's a problem of I don't want traffic in front of my house. The highway superintendent told me last year when this was brought up, and they literally had used the town money, the town resources, 5 guys to block this off at 5:30 in the morning.
30 seconds.
With trucks and so forth. He said these roads weren't built to handle the traffic that it's taking. There's not a road out here that was built to handle the traffic the roads are taking. Plus that road was built to specs for the highway department when it was donated back to the town, when the subdivision was done, as all subdivisions are.
3 minutes.
They have to be done to highway standards so they can be dedicated back to the highway department so that the taxpayer money can maintain it. So if taxpayer money is maintaining it, taxpayers should be able to use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Oakley.
Thank you. I'm Patricia Oakley. I live at 9 Mill Farm Lane. We've lived in the community for over 20 years, so we've seen enough of changes, not as long as Mr. Bukowski has, but where we went through a quiet development into now a development that has speeding cars at mainly the morning hours. So we're all understanding that the traffic we have is pretty much from like 6 in the morning until 10:30, 11 o'clock. As well as on the weekends, by the way. So I personally feel that if we're going to extend our hours, it should be for the weekends. But, you guys have been so helpful, and thank you for what we've already done. It has made a difference, and even I've noticed on the quiet days, our bedroom is in the back of our house, and at 6:30 in the morning, we are hearing trucks and cars speeding by. So they're not going 50 miles an hour, they're going 70 plus miles an hour. So does it come into a safety issue? Of course it does. It's not every day where we're trying to get out of our driveway. There are days during the week that I see buses coming down the street at 8:30, 8:45, maybe after they've dropped off their kids at the elementary school, and they're also flying down the road. I'm not saying it's you, but there are bus drivers that are flying down our road. I've called the bus depot over it. So as a taxpayer, I feel we're entitled, my husband and I, our family, many of our neighbors who have written to you, we've sent videos. We're entitled to have a peaceful and quiet enjoyment of our house. I'm sure you will agree with that. It includes our neighborhood. It includes, diminishing the reckless drivers, and I'm calling them reckless because when I turn out of my driveway and go down Mill Farm and want to turn onto Diamond Court to make a right to go onto Flying Point Road Extension, there are times when these cars just take that turn. They're not staying on their side of the road. So to say I've been scared at times because I'm almost hit head on, that's reality. So I have a problem with that, with my children driving, with my neighbors, with people walking dogs. And yes, you haven't maybe seen that, but we're experiencing it. And it is diminishing quality of life for people. And one day somebody's going to be killed. And it's not even a threat, it's a reality. These cars come around the corners so quickly, or for Flying Point Road Extension, maybe it has to go beyond to put stop signs, it sounds crazy, on either side of Flying Point Road Extension before they turn onto Diamond Court to slow them down so that when we're exiting Diamond Court, we're not going to get hit head on. I mean, this is, and it's so serious, and granted, there's other roads that are experiencing this. We get that. The population has increased so much, we understand that. But it's not a yellow line road like Hedda Pond. It is a community that deserves to have and feel safe, and being able to get. I had to wait almost 5 minutes to get out of my car, out of my driveway the other day. So, also, I just feel like if this wasn't so much of an issue, we all wouldn't be writing to you and standing here. And I don't know what the answer is. Maybe you guys can help us to come up with something more that we can do in the future. The bicyclers, I mentioned the head-on, I just made notes about things, and Waze and Maps, that's a big issue, and I've tried to reach out to have them correct that, because what they're doing is they're directing people to use Waze and Maps as a shortcut.
30 seconds.
And they're using, an illegal turn time to tell people to turn. So what they're actually telling people to do is illegal. And then as far as, the videos and pictures, we feel like we have enough of support as a community, as a neighborhood, to, prove to you that this is not just something that we feel like we're entitled to because we want to be a quiet street. We're okay with cars going through. We're not okay with cars speeding. And the only way this is going to be really enforced is if it is enforced by maybe our police department. People continue to turn on anyway. So thank you for hearing, what I have to say, for your support and how you're trying to help us and just to keep our streets safe.
Thank you. Andrew.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm a resident of Mill Farm Lane, and I just wanted to say how much I appreciated the board's, Councilman Iselli, and the traffic mitigation study that you guys are doing. I think we all recognize that whether you're new to the community and just moved here today and a taxpayer, or have been here for 100 years, things have changed greatly, and as a town and as a community, we have to embrace that change and try and make it work for everybody. So our street is inundated with traffic. I've been living on the street now, this is my 16th year in our home, and it was never like this in the beginning. About 10 years ago, it started to pick up. The previous boards were kind enough to recognize that this is the residential neighborhood. It is not a double-lined secondary or primary road, and they granted us the no-turn exemption back then. And it worked for a long time, and it wasn't perfect. We still had cars speeding through the neighborhood, creating safety issues, but it was tolerable because obviously people use roads. But I think the tipping point has been reached, and I think communities all over this country are recognizing that the roads don't just exist for the cars. The cars, we've given up everything to the cars, and people are recognizing we have to take it back somewhat. There has to be a balance between people who want to ride their bikes, walk their dogs, push their kids in a baby carriage. And you may not have seen it. I've got a 3-year-old daughter. We're afraid to go down the street with her. And that's just not right. It shouldn't be that way. And this is not a main thoroughfare. This isn't people going anywhere. All these people who are doing, even the bus drivers, all they're doing is trying to bypass traffic and take a cheat and save 2 minutes. That just creates more traffic for the people who are staying on those secondary roads as they're supposed to. It's a cheat. And I understand it. I know when I'm going back to the city, when I have to leave here, if there's traffic, I'm gonna go on the service road. And what happens when I go on the service road? I'm trying to go faster on that service road to get ahead of the traffic that's blocking. It's just human nature. And that's what's happening here. And it's reached a point where it's completely unsafe. And we had a horrific accident last year. Nobody even spoke about that, where two cars, one of them was completely totaled. There were 4 people in there, and the family was injured. And thank God nobody died. But there is definitely going to be that. And you can come anytime you want and see as the people rip down Flying Point onto Diamond Court and gather speed into Mill Farm. And it's not a simple question of just, oh, we don't want traffic going by our houses. I live in a flag lot. I hear nothing from the street. I'm very far to the back. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with safety and enjoyment and striking a balance. So we're asking, and we thank you guys for considering, to extend this no turn. It's critical to us. The safety of all the residents of this street is just as important as the people who are trying to save 2 minutes going wherever they go. And for other streets, Henry Street, any other street that has these issues, absolutely, please come speak to the Traffic Mitigation Task Force. Let's try and find ways to fix and make everybody's quality of life better. But just doing nothing and not making any changes because, well, we have this same problem, I don't think that's an answer. You guys are charged with improving the lives of the community. I know you are going to do that. I'm really, really encouraged by the direction that this board has taken, and we're thankful for the fact that you guys really seem to care. And even the Wildwood people who spoke prior, you can tell our community is being inundated. It's being stressed, and we cannot just stand still and make no changes because some people just want it to be the way it was. It's changing. It's for the better and for the worse. But we have to change with it. We have to adapt. I think this law is a small step
30 seconds.
to doing that. And I really implore and beg you guys to approve it. And the one final thing with the school buses, the school bus drivers, especially since this came up a year ago, have been speeding down through our neighborhood. I'm not sure if it's you. I think it probably is you. It's not appreciated. It's dangerous. They're going 40, 50 miles an hour, and we're going to videotape it, and we're going to send it, and we're not going to stand for that either. It's unsafe. I can't believe these people can drive that fast in a residential community, and they're charged with taking our kids safely to school. When my daughter's going to school, I'm not sure I'd put her on the school bus. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys are doing. You're making a real positive change in our community, and we're very grateful for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That's the last card I have on
Can I
this.
respond to that
No.
in a good way?
Well, since you were, I mean, just 1 minute, please.
Sure.
Oh,
Second
no.
bites at the apple.
I just want to say I sympathize with you people in that neighborhood. I actually, when I first started, I reprimanded and made fun of my coworkers because they used that. I said, these people didn't move here because they wanted traffic. But then I came to the realization it is
Oh,
a
yeah.
town road.
Hey, Rick?
Can you
You want to
speak
speak
to
to
us?
the board?
Town road. I'm not the one speeding because I want to tell you I use it, but I respect it. Probably one of the few. I mean, I've been passed on Edge of Woods Road. I've been passed on Watermill Town Road in my own vehicle, doing 5 miles over the speed limit by Ferraris and Maseratis. I respect your neighborhood. I have never gone more than 25 miles an hour, whether I'm in my vehicle or the bus. I have actually been passed on Mill Farm Road doing 25 miles an hour, okay? So I just take offense that it's probably you, but it's not. And I want to assure you that my supervisor has addressed everyone in the garage to not do more than 25 miles an hour. I'm not going to say I can't take responsibility for the 45 drivers that we have, but it's not that we're trying to take advantage of it.
30
I mean, I'm
seconds.
not abusing it personally. Like I say, I've driven it since I've been employed there, and I've lived here my entire life and never thought I'd drive a school bus.
Hey, Rick, I got a quick question. Does the school buses have GPS on them?
No,
No.
no.
So that way they could tell exactly how fast they are. And by the way, I have seen him drive. He does not drive fast.
Thank you for, Paul.
Very much
beautiful.
accepted.
Thank you.
I just wanted to let everyone know that I'm maybe the exception, but I am very respectful.
He drives like
which is
he's still
why
on
I
a
think-
lawnmower.
Which is why I think we should all be able to use it, but we cannot. It's like anything, it's human beings. You're not gonna control everyone unless you've got 1 million officers. You've got,
Let's let the other guy come up.
you can't.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you.
I would just like to say one other thing. I do want you guys to consider, New York City 10 years ago lowered their speed limit to 25. I do think we should consider lowering the speed limit wherever we can to 25, maybe even lower. I think it would save lives, and I think the community would be better off. And again, I do apologize. We have had an issue with the speeding buses. I shouldn't have assumed it was you, and I'm wrong for that. I apologize.
Thank you for that.
I'm Charlie Buckner. I'm in the neighborhood as well. I have utmost respect for what you guys are doing there. I really do. My question is not the speed, but the volume of the buses. I just don't know why, there's like a
The
wall.
bus garage is
a
around
wall
the
of
corner.
like 10. Yeah, did they ever, and they never seem to go,
The bus garage is around the corner.
yep, so they
So either
have.
they're all going back to the garage or they're all coming
At the
from.
same time, when the elementary school run is done, and then they have to get back to the garage to do the special needs in the middle of the day. So it's sometimes,
So
sometimes it's 25 minutes to sit from County Road 39 on
Yeah.
David White's Lane, Seven Ponds, Upper Seven Ponds to get back. I mean, we've tried everything, we can't go down Montauk Highway, we can't go over the bridge, although I do
Yeah.
wanna bring up, jitney buses are going over the Waterville Railroad Bridge, locals call it the Bonelli Bridge.
Yeah.
But,
I'm honestly, I know it was, somebody proposes kind of a laughing matter, but honestly, it is difficult to get out of. I have a right of way onto Diamond Court. I'm actually 18 Flying Point. I've been there with my father since 2003. I've seen a lot of changes, and it is just kind of like just a wall of cars coming down Diamond Court. Now it's, the changes are just really extreme. I don't know why the buses all, that is one thing I've noticed is this, 10 or 12 buses come in at once. It is very difficult to get even out of your driveway, or right of way for me. And it really is, has gotten to be a dangerous thing. It's not really, for me, it's not having to do with the quiet nature of the street, but it is dangerous. There's a lot of kids there. And I just wanted to come and say that, in the years that I've been there, it's a huge change. And I've lived on a lot of different streets.
30 seconds.
I've lived on Meeting House, I've lived on Woolley Street, I've lived Edge of Woods. I've never seen one quite like this with the backup from Seven Ponds. There can be 25 cars deep waiting at that stop sign to make the right. It's just, it's quite an impact, it really is. And I just wanted to voice my opinion, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
take a ride down Cobb Road at that same time.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure, but like I said, I've lived on a lot of streets. I've never
Okay.
seen it like this.
Hello.
Hang on.
Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom? All right.
I just wanted to add before we close the hearing. Residents did come to me last year about this, as far as Candace coming about Henry Road, as, you know, the other streets that I've mentioned as well. And my answer to them at the time was, listen, if we start closing down these roads in the morning or the afternoon, we have to look at every secondary road in this town. And we have to really look at them and say, are we gonna close this? Because you can't just do for one community. It's really a question of fairness. The other issue and the other reason why I didn't, and one of the suggestions I made was, it is a very small community. I said, if you want to restrict access to your road, take it back from the town. Make it a private road. You can gate it off. You can put speed bumps in. It's now a private community. You can do what you want. We had already a call to our office last week from a resident of Mill Farm who threatened litigation against the town for not enforcing the closure till 8 a.m., which led me to call and find out what it would cost us to enforce this closure. And it has to be a police officer because technically highway can't close down a road that they're not working on. So it would have to be a police officer. And they can't remove a sector cop to enforce the closure, which means it would be overtime. And it would cost the taxpayers to enforce this closure, right? So you can put up all the signs all over town you want. You heard about Wildwood Lake. If there's no enforcement, it's going to continue to happen. To enforce this per day, it's $562.50. For the April till September, it ends up costing the taxpayers $94,500 for a police officer to enforce that closure. So, like I said, if the sign goes up, it's a sign. And they're disobeyed. Shrubland, you can drive down County Road 39 and you watch people turn down Shrubland all day long. So I want to make that clear that it's not going to be enforced 7 days a week.
Well, Councilwoman, if I may, I guess my question is, enforced to what capacity? To the capacity as if it were to function as a private road completely? I'm a little bit confused as to the numbers that you reflected upon. But, this resolution originally had a lot more regulatory aspects to it. We've really significantly watered it down. When I visually saw that, we would probably get some pushback on this. And I think there's a credible argument to be made about fairness. And I think that, determination is also an important aspect to it. The engineers need to make sure that this is something that is feasible, that won't cause additional implications that would impact negatively traffic. So there's a lot that goes into this, but let me make this clear. We're not putting up a sign. We're not putting up a regulation. We are extending an existing regulation. We're not creating anything new. So as for the issue that you brought to us, that would be a new issue. We'd have to really look at it comprehensively and determine what we can do, right? This is something that was previously determined by another board and by another board member. And might I mention the great Stan Glinka. It was the council member who actually helped put this through. Previously, there are other aspects in the town where we do these no turns. This is not the only place. There's no favoritism here. It was determined, and this was, by the way, sent to me by the highway department, prohibiting left turns at the eastbound intersection of CR 39 at Shrubland. That was sponsored by Supervisor Pat Heaney. I mentioned Stan Glinka with respect to some of the issues here. Jay Schneiderman prohibited left turns from Millstone Road onto Scuttle Hole. Let's take a look. Also, Councilman Stan Glinka prohibited left turns from Bay Avenue onto Noyak Road. Councilman Kenny and Councilwoman Cabot. I know Councilwoman Cabot well, wonderful woman. Prohibited left turn at Halsey Lane and Montauk Highway. There are just countless examples of these types of measures that we take. And might I also add that I had asked Chief Kiernan, our Chief of Police, to also weigh in on this to make sure this is something we can do. I understand that our police officers are stretched thin. And we are going to have some serious conversations as a board on the need of hiring more police officers, especially traffic control officers, so we can expend resources and make sure we're keeping people safe. That should be a priority of this board. It's our job. You, the taxpayers, the voters of Southampton, have selected us to do that, exactly that, right? So I asked Chief Kiernan to weigh in on this, and he is supportive of this measure. He said, I am in support of the Town Board Resolution 46359, which changes the time on the regulation from 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. By the way, that's something I also changed. The community came to me and said numerously that it should be until 12:30 p.m. I said, well, that might be tough to do because we need to be thoughtful about what the police can actually accomplish. And so we agreed that 10:30 a.m. might be better. He also added that the traffic in that area is still heavy after 8:30 a.m. and the neighborhood experiences heavy traffic from people turning onto Diamond Court. We will continue to enforce this regulation as much as possible. Respectfully, Chief Kiernan. So this is something very sensible. This is not something that we're creating for special privileges. This is an existing regulation that we're merely extending for a couple of hours, just so that we can have a better quality of life and ensure the safety of the people living near Diamond Court.
Councilman, I think you bring up a good point. Certainly tonight, one of the themes that we're hearing is enforcement. And when I got on this board, we had 91 police officers. Now we have 106, and that was in 6 years. So it's pretty clear that the town and the community is asking for more enforcement. And I hope the community, and I'm sure you do understand, that does come with a price tag, and for good reason. We want good people doing these jobs. So I think that is certainly one of the overarching themes that we're hearing tonight. And we have all heard these things, you know.
And I just want to bring up, we're back to the 106 that we were at 20 years ago. So, with the population increase.
I wasn't here 20 years ago.
Well, I'm just saying that's what the police force was at 20 years ago. And we've just gotten back to that number. And we haven't hired all those officers yet. Some are in the academy. We're in the process of hiring those officers. But there's definitely a need because the population and the traffic and all the other issues that come with it have increased. And we're asking the same police force that we had 20 years ago to do the job that we now all seen. You've all seen the changes in 20 years. It's not, you know, it's a huge, huge change.
It's almost like we're stuck with what we have because it needs a complete reconfiguration.
Sir,
You can't, hey, Rick?
we
you
can't hear
talk.
you, and
Yeah, you have to come up.
Well, but.
You know, but-
We have to keep on going.
We have to finish up.
it's a good point. I'm just let you know. Yeah, we can't.
Well, I did check with him, but Kevin, is there now anyone on Zoom?
You don't have a resolution, right? I'm not sure. I'm sure we leave the record open for 2 years, 2 weeks, so that 2 weeks so that they can send in their comments. I don't think it's on, I didn't see it.
I'll ask council. Council, is this resolution on for adoption today? I believe it was supposed to be.
I recall when we reviewed them. Sir.
I believe this is part of your walk-on.
No, not this one.
Hmm?
This was
No, I
supposed,
didn't see it.
this was supposed to be the same day adoption, but that's okay if it's not.
It's always, I think, a good idea to, you know.
Yeah, we can leave
allow
the
for
record
public
open
comment
for
And then
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
10 days.
Okay, so if there's no other comments, then I move to close the public hearing and leave the record open for 2 weeks for written comments. Is that a problem?
No, I'm looking for a second.
Oh,
Second.
Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can we do written comments online? Is that the way it works?
No, you can send emails to the town clerk.
Thank you.
Right, that brings us to the public portion section of the agenda. I don't have any cards. Is there anybody that would like to address the board?
Everybody's clearing out.
Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom for public portion? All right, so I move to close the public portion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's get going with these resolutions then.
Town Board Resolution 573 of 2024. This is to authorize an agreement with the Community Development Corporation of Long Island to provide assistance with housing programs available under the Community Housing
Thanks,
Fund.
Sean. Sorry.
Thank you,
Second.
Sean, for, no, wait.
Yeah,
Thank you,
For taking
Sean,
out
for
all the,
Thank you, Sean.
all those
You were the man
enforcement
tonight.
actions. Those were very nicely displayed for us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This, I believe we're tabling this because.
Right,
Yeah.
we did hear from our Director of Housing on this, and I was asking the
did?
board.
Hmm?
Well, not, we spoke to her.
The
in
table.
We
exec
spoke
session.
with
Okay.
her and we're tabling it?
Yes.
Yes.
Second
So-
to table.
All in favor?
Aye.
Our next meeting, which is
June 11th? June 11th?
June 11th. Thank you.
Before I introduce the next resolution, I'd like to actually make a motion to take resolution ID number 46564 out of order.
Council member, we need to vote on this?
What page? Or you want to withdraw?
Well, I don't know if I want to withdraw yet. I think I want to add this, take it out of order first.
Did we not vote on the tabling?
Oh,
Um,
yes. We-
Right. We
did
need to vote on the
Oh,
table.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Oh, I thought we did.
thought we
All in
did.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Before I read off Town Board Resolution 2024-625, I'd like to make a request to take Town Board Resolution ID number 46564, resolution establishing standards of civility for Town Advisory Committee members, out of order.
Second?
Second.
He's on the walk-ons.
Walk-ons, page 1, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk. Page 1.
And there's a motion and a second to take it out of order.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
I seconded
Yes,
it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't know how to vote because I didn't walk it on.
You can abstain. Okay, yeah, so this is Town Board Resolution ID 46564. This is an amended version of the resolution that we would be considering, 2024-625. I worked with Kathleen Murray. As you know, I also spoke to you all about 3-4 weeks ago in our last work session. And I had asked anyone to submit any comments to me to make any amendments. I worked to just kind of redraft this a little bit. We wanted it to be more focused on decorum, and also in keeping with the Institute for Local Government, which is an organization that promotes good government at the local level. And essentially, what their study does is, take a look at specific strategies for ensuring civility, embracing diversity within our committees, and also ensuring that it's an orderly process and it's in keeping with some of our goals of the various advisory committees. There is a section in this, samples of codes of civility, that they, listed out, that we adopted. And some of those things are, support the committee's mission. We want to make sure that folks that we, appoint to our various advisory committees are supportive of the various missions of those committees. Offer alternative solutions when addressing a problem or issue, show respect to each other as appointed representatives of their member agencies, and promoting civility during meetings and tolerate alternate opinions to allow for the free flowing of ideas. This was originally titled Code of Conduct. I thought that sounded maybe quite harsh, so we instead utilized, we followed in keeping with the Institute for Local Government suggestion, and we added instead standards of civility for town advisory committees. So I'm hoping that I could have your support to adopt this, and I will happily withdraw the other resolution. And if you have any questions.
How many committees have seen this?
Well, right now, 2 have seen it. Maybe 3. Actually, probably more than that, because there are some CACs that have looked at it. There are some advisory committees like the Affirmative Action Task Force that looked at it, and also the Anti-Bias Task Force has looked at it as well. And both of which Minerva Perez, who leads the Affirmative Action Task Force, supports it. She fully agrees with these basic principles outlined for basic respect and decorum at all town initiated meetings, and also Dr. James Banks supports it as the chair of the Anti-Bias Task Force. And also we have Dr. Sands of CAC West that also supports the measure as well.
So you're making a motion to adopt?
I'm making a motion to
I'll
adopt.
second it.
I just,
Motion to adopt in a second.
lists for, it's rules for adults telling them to turn off their
On the motion.
turn off their cell phones. Anything that approaches name calling should be off limits. Clapping, booing, shouts of approval or disapproval from other members should be avoided. Again, I understand what you're trying to do, and I applaud, the thought process behind this.
Thank you.
I think it's kind of
She can
to
have
tell
a
adults to
comment
turn
on
off their
it.
cell phones and avoid name calling, to me, is a little elementary schoolish. And
Well, I think.
I
and
understand
some-
what you're saying. If these are Robert's Rules of Order. These are found in, the tenets of our public meetings, at its very basis of our republic. So I like this, and I think, it's advisory. and their guidelines. So I see no problem with this.
And I, like I said, I understand where you're coming from. I just, in the, the whereas clause in why the behind this is, the town code that addressed the establishment of the advisory committees notes that a set of rules for each committee will be established by the town board, which was never done. And
So we're doing it now.
this is not rules, this is not adopted, this is not part of our code.
No,
So,
but it's a
let me,
step.
can I finish what I was saying? When I joined the town board, I looked into drafting rules for the CAC because Julie Lofstad, when she was councilwoman, had tried to set up rules. Julie tried to set up rules and didn't involve the CACs. It backfired. The CAC chairs came forward. We basically said, we want to be a part of any rules that are made, and it kind of pittered out. When I joined the board, I decided that I was going to work on rules for the CACs because I think they are important. So what I did was I reached out to every chair of every CAC and had a conversation. And what I found was every CAC kind of functions differently, but they function in a way that's productive for them, in a way that works for them. So I didn't end up even bringing rules forward because I didn't want to limit the CAC's function and allow them to, progress the way that they found works for them.
We're not limiting the function.
I find it disrespectful to tell adults to turn off their cell phones and avoid name calling. I just, as a former chair of a CAC, I would be offended by
So you want us
this.
to redact that statement?
And that's why I
Redact that.
Wait,
I
do
don't
you
think
find
so.
that these principles of decorum inhibit the working of the CACs?
I do not.
Okay,
But I
then
find.
I'm a little confused as to what.
Well, can I actually, just before
Sure.
we move on any further with the discussion, since it's my resolution, I just want to clarify that this is not just CAC specific. This is
All
for
advisory
of our,
committees.
for all of our advisory committees. It's also for our appointed committees that we have that specifically focus on specific issues, whether it's sustainability or housing, right? These are organizations that we set up so that we can have community engagement on those very issues and we can be better informed. But when those committees and those organizations are not functioning to do exactly that, we need to have some sort of recourse. People who are appointed, they should at least be informed of what is expected of them. And I understand what you're saying, Cindy, that some of these things, you should just be expected to behave. Yeah, we're not saying people who you should behave this way. We're just saying, look, when you come to these meetings, recognize that these are town officiated meetings. And we are expected to gather information. We are expected to then gain, when we take in that information, we are then supposed to act on some of that information. So we should expect within those organizations a functionality that is stable, that has decorum, and that provides a benefit to the public. And that's what we should be doing. It's just setting, and by the way, and you said this at the start of your comments, this does not affect the code. So the code that establishes the concrete rules, it's not actually affecting it. It's just a guideline. That's really all this is. It's a guideline.
I just want to ask you a question. Is your cell phone turned off?
It is. It's on Do Not Disturb.
It's not off.
No. But
You've used it during this meeting. I've used mine during this meeting. We're adults, and we know when it's appropriate and when it's not appropriate. That's all I'm trying to say.
But Cindy, this is really about the work that we do as council members, and when we liaise to our various committees that we're assigned to, we expect that those committees are functioning in a way that is providing a public benefit, and actually this is a benefit to the taxpayers, making sure that those committees are functioning and doing the work that they were actually tasked to do.
Do you want to
Two
put
and a half-
silenced instead of
And
turned
in
off?
2.5 years, I have yet to work with a committee that hasn't functioned in that way, and I thank them all for taking their time unpaid, because all of our advisory committees are unpaid boards, and I just want to thank them for their service. And you are well within your rights to do this. It's fine. I simply don't agree. So,
Well, when we have issues of harassment that are brought to us, we should have something that we could turn to that shows that these things are not something that is accepted by this board. And while we are within our rights to remove people or to alter the configuration of the committees, we should, at the very least, in terms of the town's reputation, provide some sort of guidance for each member that you should follow these very standard points of protocol and decorum. And I believe we have a motion and a second to adopt.
May I say something?
Yeah.
My neighbor came to me after reading it in the press, and he said it was a good idea because he went in front of a board and he thought he was belittled and harassed by the chair. And he was not treated right.
Well, the appointed boards have to follow.
And he thought this was right, because this will make the chair hopefully be courtesy to the people who come up, because it represents the town of Southampton. And we all got harassed by, when we first all got elected and got sworn in, by a few people on how to vote on things, which I thought was very bad as a person who on one of our boards harassed us on a subject which we have the freedom to vote how we want and how we're gonna do it. He can advise us how to vote, but not tell us. And he went on and on, the person went on and on about it for weeks.
They still can. This doesn't do anything to
No,
stop that.
It does, but it makes a point, you know?
Well, I also, this part about the whereas, you know, that the committee, that there should be a set of rules for each committee with respect to attendance and meeting duties and, you know, filing reports. I think that that is something that's worthwhile that we look into and maybe have an outline of what can, how they can help us, what we can get out of it by getting, you know, some kind of communication.
A process and
established.
procedure,
Yeah,
you're saying?
But perhaps this is not the appropriate,
No.
you know.
But I would be happy to help
Document to
work on a
include it.
resolution to do that.
I know you were saying it's difficult because they're all
Well, we
unique.
looked into, you know, you can't miss more than 3 or 4 meetings. Again, they're volunteers that volunteer their time. Some of them are seasonal residents. We didn't want to preclude seasonal residents from, and snowbirds from participating in these advisory committees because
Yeah.
they're, when they are here and they can participate, their input is valuable. So that was one stumbling block. Everything that we tried to put in, either one committee it didn't work for or another, limiting the number, like there was legislation to limit the number of people on these
12.
committees. It doesn't work because some can't get to that number and some are happy to have more than that number. So it's just a whole, it was hard. And then, like I said, I did speak to every chair. It was something I wanted to do, truly did want to do, and I wanted to work on it with their input. And it just, every CAC and advisory committee that we have kind of functions differently, and they function how they need to function.
I do think it would be a good idea, though, for them to have a way to communicate with us on a, you know,
Most of them have
periodically.
minutes.
Well, I did check that, and I don't see them on the, you know,
Not really.
on the,
If they have them, they're not sharing them with us.
they're not
They
sending them.
usually send them to Ryan, and Ryan should
No,
be
I understand.
uploading
I
them to
initiated
the
that
website.
Yeah,
Because
but
we
they're
were
not.
not getting any sort of documentation of what was taking place in these meetings. CAC.
And some of the
Yeah.
CACs, though, they don't have they don't have secretaries because the secretaries, it's a crappy job that nobody
Yeah.
wants to take on.
And I don't want to put more burden on them, but they're here to help us understand the needs of the community. So maybe we can just come up with a way to, you know, get that communication. I'm not sure what it is right
Maybe
now.
give them a
but-
template or something.
Yeah, either that, or it may just be a question of all of us when we're going to our, you know, our CACs. And I try to, you know, if there's something of importance that comes up that affects the town board, bringing it up during our
Yeah.
updates so that we know what's happening in the
Maybe
different
that's
hamlets.
it, the liaisons report to the full board, because otherwise, how can we be responsible to those particular communities? We have so many that we.
Correct.
All right, so let's think about a good way to,
And this is
implement
about
that.
principles of decorum.
but this, taking it back to this, yeah, it's just a guide, and it's not uncommon. It's like the employee handbook with the rules of conduct and, you know, similar thing, so. All right, so we had a motion,
So
second.
I had a motion and a second on the out of order, but I don't know that I had one for the actual voting on it.
I think, Bill.
Same one?
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
No.
All right, now back to,
I have to withdraw.
yes.
So Town Board Resolution 2024-625, I'd like to withdraw.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You-
Town Board Resolution 2024-663, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, adopt.
Oh, hang on one second.
You're way ahead of yourself there.
Oh.
Wait a
Maybe.
second.
Maybe.
Don't be passing over my.
Oh, yeah, this is important.
You're killing me, Mike, you're killing me.
You wanted to go right past it.
You really want my office to function?
All right, Town Board Resolution 2024-638 to appoint Nicole Gansell to Principal Legal Secretary in the Town Attorney's Office.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mike.
Of course, Jim. My apologies, Jim. I want you to be well supported.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Town Board Resolution 2024-663, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, adopt town one-year agricultural use agreement for 24-25.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 664 of 2024, co-sponsored with Councilman Schiavone, authorize H2M Architects and Engineers to file grant application with the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation on behalf of the Hampton Bays Water District pursuant to the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Town Board Resolution 665 of 2024 authorizes supervisor to execute a service agreement with SourcePass Contemporary LLC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-666. I know. Co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara to authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with D&B Engineering and Architects PC to address the New York State DEC additional requirements of the Brownfield Cleanup Program remedial site investigation for the Damascus landfill.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-667, authorize supervisor to sign a contract with L.K. McLean Associate Engineer and Survey DPC for professional engineer design and permitted service for Baycrest Avenue, West Hampton bulkhead replacement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-668, co-sponsored with Isola and McNamara, authorize supervisor to sign contract with L.K. McLean, Associate Engineer and Survey DPC to provide design and construction support service and related to improvement of the intersection of Spionk Road at Old Country Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-669, co-sponsored with McMurray, authorize supervisor to sign contract with L.K. McLean, Associate Engineer to survey and surveyors DPC to provide engineer design service for pedestrian improvement of Shinnecock Road, Forest Avenue, and Lighthouse Road in Hampton Bays.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2024-670, co-sponsored with Isola and McNamara, authorize supervisor to sign contract with L.K. McLean, Associate Engineer and Survey DPC, provide professional engineer service for traffic studies at the intersection of Header Pond Road and Lower Seven Pond Road in Watermill and South Country Road at Mill Road in Remsenburg.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-671, co-sponsored with Councilman McNamara. Authorize supervisor to sign contract with L.K. McLean, Associate Engineer and Surveyor DPC to provide survey and design and construction support service in relation to improve the intersection of Header Pond Road and Lower Pond Road in Watermill.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll make you say my name a lot, Bill.
I know.
You got so many in a row.
I know, then I'm taking a nap. Town Board 2024-672, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, authorized supervisor to sign contract with L.K. McLean, Associate Engineer and Survey DPC to provide survey, design, and construction support service in relates to improvement of the intersection of Old Country Road and Montauk Highway, East Quogue.
Second, this is desperately needed.
Yes,
All in favor?
Aye.
that's your turn.
Town Board Resolution 2024-673, co-sponsored by Council Members Pell, Iacilli, McNamara, to authorize the supervisor to execute a contract with New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets for the Southampton Animal Shelter Kennel Upgrade
Second.
Project. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-674, co-sponsored by Councilmembers McNamara and Schiavone, to authorize the supervisor to execute a license agreement for the Hampton Classic Horse Show from August 10th, 2024 through September 8th, 2024, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at 240 Snake Hollow Road in Bridgehampton.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-675, co-sponsored by Council Members Scavone and Pell, to authorize the supervisor to execute a no-cost extension of term of contract for the preparation of a supplemental generic environmental impact statement for the proposed Riverside Sewage Treatment Plant, Hamlet of Riverside.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, may I be added as a co-sponsor to 675? Thank you. Town Board Resolution 2024-676, authorizing the supervisor to execute affiliation agreements for student intern social work experience at the Town Youth Bureau.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-677, co-sponsored by Councilman Scavone, to authorize the supervisor to sign a consultant agreement with Susan Western to assist the Southampton Town Police Department with the development of the Southampton Town Police Department directives and implementation into the Lexipol software system.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-678, co-sponsored with Councilman Pell, by authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with Johnson Control Security Solutions LLC for alarm system and access control system monitoring and maintenance at the town's Justice Court.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-679, co-sponsored by Council Members Pell and Scavone, to authorize the supervisor to sign a hold harmless release indemnification and authorization agreement for native revegetation and restoration of town-owned property at 134 Hayground Cove Road, Watermill.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-680, co-sponsored by Council Members Scavone and Pell, to authorize the supervisor to sign all documents necessary to engage appraisal firms for the Fire Island Inlet to Montauk Point project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-681, to authorize the supervisor to sign any and all documents with DTN for Weather Sentry Online Public Safety.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Sorry, I'm reading another one. Town Board Resolution 682 of 2024, to authorize the supervisor to sign any and all documents with no before for the subscription renewal of the Town Security Awareness Training.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-683, co-sponsored with Councilman Pell, to authorize the Youth Bureau to apply for the 2024 Youth Sports and Education Opportunity Grant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-684, award and authorize the supervisor to sign contract for supply and fabrication of steel, aluminum, and welding with Pennsylvania Steel Company, Inc.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2024-685, also sponsored with Councilman Scavone, award and authorize supervisor to sign contract with Aspla Construction LLC for Rampasture Road water main improvement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2024-686, award authorized to supervise to sign contract with Parkline Asphalt Maintain Inc., application of crack seal.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-687, to award and authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with Quag Sinclair Fuel, Inc. for liquid propane gas.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-688, to recall and amend Resolution Number 2024-482, authorizing the purchase of traffic signal installation and modification with Hink Electrical Contractor.
Second.
From the Suffolk County contract.
Sorry.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2024-689, co-sponsor with Councilman Izala, recall and amend resolution number 2024-603, authorize supervisor to sign a sole contract with Vassar System, Inc. for the sale and service of butcher multi, any product formerly known as Johnson N.A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-690, co-sponsored by Council Members Pell, Scavone, Iacilli. The recall and amend Resolution Number 2024-605, award and authorize supervisor to sign a contract with LEB Electric Limited for Town Hall electric vehicle charging stations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Your turn.
Where am I?
Bottom of 39.
Not highlighted.
Not my job.
Town Board Resolution 691 of 2024, recall and amend Town Board Resolution 2024-572, Annual Cybersecurity Conference in Albany for Information Systems Personnel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-692, co-sponsored by the entire board in the matter of the establishment of the Riverside Sewer District in the town of Southampton, County of Suffolk, New York.
Second, on the motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, everybody.
Think Tommy John wanted to speak.
No, that's all right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, congratulations, everyone. No, simply, we made history by creating this district, the
Only
first
took,
one
what,
in
25
unincorporated
years?
Southampton town, and I'm proud to do it. I've been on this for 6 years, so this is awesome.
This is going to be an amazing thing for the members of the
You want
community.
him to read
Thank
the
you for
next
your
one?
work, Councilman Tommy John,
Mm.
and also the work of Rick Martell, too, who helped you out with this, right?
Maybe.
And John Bouvier
John
and Jay
Bouvier.
Prior
Schneiderman and
board.
Christine
Yeah.
Scalera.
And
I mean,
I noticed
really,
you sponsored the formation of the district, but you didn't want to sponsor the bond.
Well,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't think I don't think that was intentional.
And, you know, Janice Shear and Kathleen Murray
Yes.
and everybody that worked
Yes.
on this, you know,
Yes.
congratulations
Janice
to
and Kathleen.
It's just
everybody.
$44 million.
Plus,
Yeah,
plus all the
huge
neighborhood
lift.
people who
Len
came out to
Marchese.
support it.
county's paying for it.
Oh, yeah,
All the people who came out to support it, all the
they're
neighbors.
so supportive.
And this is about
Except
revitalization
Riverhead.
of Riverside
Right.
and mitigating nitrogen in the estuary.
And,
come on.
and I just
This
want to
is-
clarify, the only reason why I mentioned, and I know former Councilman Bouvier was critical to this as well.
Absolutely.
But I remember being at a meeting with you and Rick, when
Well, I
I was
guess
working for Bridget. And I just wanted to say that it was great to see you in action, working with the community and making sure that they were heard on this.
Well, we were seeing that it was not getting done in 2018. It really was not happening. And the town of Southampton, you know, we took this on to create this district. And it took this long to get it done. Meanwhile, we did have a world pandemic in the middle of that whole thing. But, you know, that's how long it took for us to get this done. I'm very proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
Someday you'll
Grant
sit
money
back
didn't
and watch
hurt either.
Hampton Bays.
No.
Yeah, well, right. And we used local matching grant money from the Water Quality Fund. I
We
mean, that
bought
was the
the
first time
properties.
that we used it in that way, you know, to create this district. So we leveraged it up and got
And
more
thank you to
money.
you as well for your work getting this.
You're welcome.
So, yeah.
And together with the changes we're making with the maritime trails and
Mhm.
park, you know, it's going to be such a lift for
Tomorrow
the
at 11,
community.
there's a ribbon cutting at the Maritime Trail
Tomorrow at 11,
in Riverside.
Hopefully you'll all be there.
yes.
Unfortunately, I cannot make it.
Oh, darn it. You'll be there in spirit.
Yes.
Town Board Resolution 2024-693, co-sponsored with council members McNamara, Scavone, and Pell.
You get like me.
A bond authorization of $44,605,706 for the Riverside Sewer District. And for this, we're going to need a
Second.
roll call.
Okay.
Who's the second?
Second,
There you go.
Bill?
Okay. Supervisor Moore,
Yeah, yes.
Councilwoman McNamara,
Yes.
Councilman Iacilli.
Yes, and co-sponsor.
You want me to add you?
Yes.
Peer
Okay.
pressure.
Councilman Pell,
Yes.
Councilman Scavone.
Absolutely. Aye.
And just to note that my very able deputy just wanted to advise me that, you know, that this 44 million is, we'll probably never have to use this. This is just the EFC. We're going to be getting the financing
yes.
from the Environmental Facilities Corporation, but this just needs to be in place. They have to see this, and we just have to have it in place.
Good point, Jim.
Yes.
Glad you
Thank you.
mentioned that we need this as the security backing.
Right.
But we are getting the
I'd like
grant
to say it
money.
was my original thought, but it was Kathleen Murray who wanted to advise me, and I appreciate all the work that she's done.
Which is why the next resolution is so important.
She's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, let's see, the next one. Here it is, Town Board Resolution 2024-694, co-sponsored with council members Chiavoni, Pell, and McNamara, to authorize the supervisor to sign financing documents as it relates to grant funding and furtherance of the Riverside Sewer District.
Second.
All in favor?
And co-sponsor.
And Town Board Resolution 2024-695, to co-sponsored with council members Pell and I, Silly, to amend the 2024 adopted budget for building and facility management.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-696, co-sponsored with council members Chiavoni and Iacilli, to amend the 2024 adopted budget for Community Housing Fund.
Second.
But I just wanted to say that we didn't, Kara was on vacation, so we weren't able to clarify with her this, we were under the impression it was $1,250,000 for the first-time home buyers down payment assistance program, and the resolution reflects $1,550,000. So
You want to table it?
do you want to table it, or we could adopt it and then make a correction to the next?
Yeah, she did reach out and she did confirm that needed to be $1,250,000, so let's
Withdraw?
table it.
Do you want to
Can
withdraw
we-
it?
Actually, yeah, we have to reintroduce it, I would say.
Could we,
It's $250,000.
Could we table until we're ready to have the next
Or
one?
can we amend it?
or can we just amend it right now?
Yeah.
Without Kara here?
Well, if
If
you
she-
confirm that the
Then just
the
amend it.
amount is
We
the
did.
$1,250,000 instead of the $1,550,000.
Okay, well,
Okay.
so how does this work? We have a
So I
motion
would
and a second to pass it,
Motion
now
to
we have
amend.
A
to.
motion to amend to correct
Mhm.
the $1,550,000 to now read as $1,250,000.
Second?
I was.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, so now I move to adopt the resolution as amended.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Bill just saved us $300,000. He's great.
All right, thank you, everybody. Town Board Resolution 2024-697, co-sponsored with
Can
council.
I stop you just for one
Okay.
second? My only other question would be, how does that affect the financial?
Yeah, does it all
impact?
add?
So if you will supply me with that information, or I can get that from Kara?
Yeah.
Dorothy?
Well, do you see the financial impact, the second one?
The second one should be
We would
1,250,000.
replace the
Is that- okay, so
1,550 with
Got it.
1,250.
1,250.
You want to do another resolution?
No.
Oh, that's, it's the same then.
Okay. Good catch, Cindy.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Town Board Resolution
Does that all add up to it right now?
2024-697, co-sponsored with council members Scavone, Pell, and Iacilli, to amend the 2024 adopted budget for CPF land purchases.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-698, to amend the 2024-2028 capital budget for Damascus landfill project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-699, co-sponsored with council members Pell and Scavone, to amend the 2024-2028 capital budget for park improvement projects.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-700, co-sponsored by council members Pell, Iacilli, and Scavone, to amend the 2024-2028 capital budget for Riverside Bus Shelter Project.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Town
These are
Board-
the unique bus shelters that we see around Southampton town. They have shingled roofs, we have to replace
Yeah,
them.
they're very
Yeah,
nice
They're
looking.
nice.
Town Board Resolution 2024-701, to accept the resignation of Michael Daly from the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second, and I want to thank Michael for his service on the Zoning Board of Appeals, as well as the Community Housing Fund Board.
He's
He's a
given-
strong voice for housing, and we appreciate him in this community.
Given many
Yes.
years to the Zoning Board, and appreciate his service to the community and to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-702, to authorize the settlement of the litigation matter Melissa Benjamin versus the Town of Southampton et al.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 703 of 2024, co-sponsored with Supervisor Moore. Resolution of adoption amending Chapter 19 entitled Department of Police Public Safety Commission in order to consolidate functions of the License Review Board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 704 of 2024, co-sponsored with Supervisor Moore and Councilman Pell. Resolution of adoption amending Chapter 143 contractors in order to reorganize procedures and standards for home improvement contractors licenses.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Hold on. I just want to say, it really shows to the work done by the Trades Advisory Committee and Sean Cambridge over the past 2 years doing this, that a change of this magnitude, and there was no one came forward to, be against it, or we actually had some, letters of support, but I just want to thank them again. Town Board Resolution 705 of 2024, co-sponsored with Councilman Iacilli, Supervisor Moore, and Councilman Pell. Resolution of adoption amending Chapter 299, regulation of taxicabs and other vehicles.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, Sean did a nice job on this.
He really did.
Pulling it all together. And like you
explaining
said,
it to everyone.
Yeah, and the Trades Committee was getting some good input.
Town Board Resolution 706 of 2024, co-sponsored with Councilmember Fell and Councilmember McNamara. Resolution of adoption amending Town Code Chapter 312-62, parking by permit at Wildwood Lake Park.
Second.
We had that public hearing tonight.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 707 of 2024, authorized waiver of Parks and Recreation Facility use fee for the East Quogue Chamber of Commerce 2024 Summer Concert Series.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 708 of 2024, co-sponsored with Councilman Iacilli, authorization of cost reimbursement waiver for Blaze Church Hope Day 2024 to be held on June 8th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-709, co-sponsored by the entire board, to authorize the donation of junk vehicles to the Hampton Bays and North Sea Volunteer Fire Department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-710, co-sponsored by Council Members Pell and Schiavone, to authorize the waiver of fees for the construction of an addition to the West Hampton Fire District facility at 31 Seabreeze Avenue, West Hampton.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Town Board Resolution 2024-711, co-sponsored with Isola and McNamara, memorized resolution related to the Pump Out Boat Program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-712, co-sponsored by the entire board, memorializing resolution in support of Assembly Bill A 3872-A and Senate Bill S 2094-A as it relates to authorizing the town of Southampton to enact a homestead exemption for real property taxation purposes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 713 of 2024, co-sponsored by Councilman Iacilli and Pell, waive showmobile fees for Eastport Fire Department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-714 to appoint Carrie Bannon to the Office Assistant in General Services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wait, I just have to write myself a note.
Okay.
Town Board Resolution 2024-715 to appoint Gina DeMauro to Assistant Superintendent of Recreation 1 position from the Civil Service list.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-716, co-sponsored by Council Members Schiavone, Iacilli, and Pell, to appoint Jorge Lozada Leon to Office Assistant Spanish-Speaking in the Police Department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-717, co-sponsored by Council Members Pell and Iacilli, to appoint Manolo Espana to the Justice Court clerk Spanish-speaking in the Justice Court.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-718 to authorize a stipend for the town FOIL officer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-719 to extend the probationary period for custodial worker 1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-720 to terminate an employee in municipal works.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-721 to reinstate Martin Pretorius to scale operator position in municipal works.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Town Board Resolution 722 of 2024, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, a notice of public hearing in connection with the acceptance of a conservation easement regarding the map of Ocean View Park. Map number 105, section 4, and /S of north of Terrace Avenue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-723, co-sponsored by Councilmembers McNamara and Scavone, notice of public hearing on the acquisition of 38 and 48 Old Country Road in the hamlet of East Quogue and amend the CPF management and stewardship plan to include the property.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-724, co-sponsored by Councilmembers McNamara and Scavone, notice of public hearing on the acquisition of 450 Montauk Highway in the hamlet of East Quogue and amend the community preservation stewardship plan to include the property.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-725, notice of public hearing to consider amendments to the Town Code Article 24 entitled Central Pine Barrens Overlay District to incorporate recent changes to update the comprehensive land use plan.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Janice is going to more fully describe that to us at the
Mhm.
next work session. Town Board Resolution 2024-726, co-sponsored by Councilmembers Scavone and McNamara, authorization of the acquisition of 109 Montauk Highway in the hamlet of West Hampton and amend in the CPF project plan and CPF management and stewardship plan to include the property.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then we have the walk-ons. Town Board Resolution ID number 46561, warrant number 10, capital number 10, CPF number 10, dated May 28, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution ID number 46575 to reappoint Bonnie Michelle Cannon to the Southampton Housing Authority.
Didn't we already
Second.
do this?
We already
Well, we
this.
did them, but they were required to come in and take the oath of
Oh,
office
and they
within
missed
30
it?
days, and they
Days.
missed the deadline.
Okay.
So they've all been reminded. So I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution ID number 46576 to reappoint James Nespel to the Board of Ethics.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Town Board Resolution ID number 46577 to reappoint Michelle Lamole Gray to the Board of Ethics.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, all right. Anybody have anything else? We're all good. Then, I move to close the, meeting.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.